occasion when thousands and thousands of people take over the busy streets of London, leaving some 26 miles of the capital city traffic-free. The race will soon be underway. Good morning on London Marathon Day, and this is the very heart of the most complex television operation required for any sporting event in this country. In the air, 3 helicopters with live cameras. On the roads, 4 mobiles taking in the leaders. And around the course, some 38 cameras in 47 positions as the record entry of 34,000 passes by in this running carnival. And for the first time ever this year, a major city centre marathon combines fun runners with the elite, as the biggest names in the sport compete for the World Cup. For Rosa Mota of Portugal, the best woman marathon runner in the world, it's her first race in London. She's the Olympic, world and European champion and a strong favourite. From Italy, Galindo Bordin, another great champion, aims to add the London race to his Olympic and European titles. Among the fun runners, Sebastian Coe will be covering a few more miles than he's used to. The double Olympic 1500 metres champion and world record holder at 800 metres runs a marathon for the first time. And like so many others, it's all for charity. It's that sort of day. Runners from nearly 80 nations. Some serious, some just happy to be here, some playing courageous. As usual, a wheelchair athlete who crosses the line first at Westminster Bridge. Their race started a few minutes ago. Chris Hallam of Cwmbran, twice a winner with a problem. And just looking at these brave souls is a reminder of an absent friend, my long-time colleague, the late Ron Pickering, who covered every one of the previous 10 London marathons. Chris Brasher is the race director and the man who made his dream of the London Marathon come true, and he's paid a fitting tribute to Ron's memory by asking his wife, Jean Pickering, herself a European and Olympic medalist, to start the main events in just a few minutes.
Jean, this must be a very proud but sad occasion for you.
It is, but I'm so grateful to Chris here for inviting me to do this, because it's a wonderful tribute to Ron.
He did love the London Marathon, didn't he?
Well, we're both Londoners, you see. We're born within the sound of Bow Bells, as they say, and he worked so hard on it every year that it's been in operation, and he would have been really proud today, really chuffed is the word I would use.
He was the absolute spirit of what the marathon's all about. Yeah. And I think he's got something to do. Either Jean, why have we got sun this morning?
You think it's Ron, Jean?
He's up there directing it, don't worry.
You two go back a long way, don't you?
Yes.
Teammates.
The first time I had a big hug and a kiss with her was in 1952, when on the same day we broke the Olympic record. We went first over the line,
I was third.
And that was about 8.
But we did it.
But we were both under the Olympic record.
Yeah.
The marathons are always special, Chris, but today an extra special event with the World Cup.
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing that we've got 60 nations from the world, more nations that were in the Wembley Olympic Games in 1948, and led by the 2 Olympic champions. It really is a bit special.
You always enjoy this day, Jean?
Very much, but I was always left at home and, it was waiting for Ron to come back without his voice at the end of the day. But, no, I'd like to say, Bob, that it's not only is it a tribute to Ron, but it must show the appreciation of the BBC's coverage.
It does.
To invite me here today, because he was part of a team and they've done so much, they've covered it so well over the years that it's a tribute to them as well. And I'd like that to go out.
Lovely to see you, Jean.
And I wish David luck in his commentary.
I'm sure he says thank you. Lovely to see the smile.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do indeed say thank you. Thanks very much indeed, Jean Pickering, one of the kindest and most thoughtful people I know, as well as an outstanding athlete. Well, to get you around the starts, There are 3 starts. That's the fun runners start, just outside Greenwich Park. On we go then to the elite starts. And that's the women's race ready to go at 9 o'clock. The men's elite goes at 9:30. And the leading women will not be caught by the lead men. So these are the runners in the World Cup race on the elite start. There is another start, by the way, and that is the green start with the veterans. Well, now we can have a word with the favourite, the 3 times European champion, world and Olympic champion, Rosa Moto with Brendan Foster.
Rosa, the last time we saw you running a marathon was in Split in Yugoslavia in the European Championships. Have you trained well since then?
Yes, I've been training and racing well, not marathon, but short distance like 10K, 15, half marathons, and I think I'm in good shape.
You're in good shape, and how do you feel about London Marathon, the World Cup Marathon and the London Marathon itself? Is it good for you?
Well, I am very excited because it's my first time to do a marathon in London, and I know it's one of the best in the world. I hope to do well, and I hope the weather helps a little bit all the runners, not me, but all the runners.
Do you like the idea of the women running on their own, separate from the men, or does it make no difference?
For me, it makes no difference. I always like to try to run by myself, concentration in the splits time, and I like to run with someone. I don't care if it's male or female.
Rosa's a marvellous competitive record. In fact, she's run 18 marathons and won no less than 13 of them. So slight, only 5 feet 1, and weighs under 7 stones. In the commentary team today, we've got Leslie Watson, one of the most experienced marathon runners in the world. Worn a British vest many times, and already run 171 marathons, including the London several times. Also, of course, in the commentary team, Brendan Foster, you've just heard talking to Rosa Moto. A quick word from Leslie about the prospects today. Moto to win, who can beat her?
I think Francie LaRue Smith might beat her because she has more basic speed, and she's been training for 5 months, especially for this race, and just eating, sleeping and running, she said.
And Francie LaRue Smith will be wearing number 725. Quick word from Brendan.
Well, we were a little bit nervous yesterday because it was very, very cold and windy, but it seems to be a little warmer, and I think it will be a little kinder to the athletes, because the concern yesterday was if it was really going to be cold, some of them could be suffering out there. And as they step up to the line, well, I think it's a delight to have the World Marathon Cup incorporated in the London Marathon this year.
So about 30 seconds to go. And the race will start on the Greenwich time signal at 9 o'clock. Jean Pickering, the starter, accompanied by her daughter Kim and husband Sean Quinlan. And also there, Ron Pickering's pride and joy, his 1-year-old grandson James. So the World Cup underway, 26 miles, 385 yards. The wind I saw from that balloon in the background, quite slight actually, and conditions not bad at all. It's a bright, sharp, coolish morning, but that won't worry the elite. It may worry the people who are out on the road for some 4 or 5 hours in the fun run. This is a good fast start, in fact, with the road sloping gently away. With this comparatively small field of elite runners, they meet an island after about 500 yards, but that will be no problem at all. Brendan Foster.
Well, 2 years ago, John Disley and Andy Norman went across to the IAAF to try and persuade them to incorporate the World Marathon Cup into the London Marathon. The idea of the elite being incorporated with the massive runners. And the IAAF took some persuasion to do that. And when they did it, I think they did good for the sport. The other thing that I quite like is that women are going to be featured today. We have awful trouble normally finding the women in amongst the massive runners, but here they're getting the data themselves. We're going to be able to watch the women's race for most of the way, which I think will be a particular delight, especially with the quality of this field. We've got 3 of the first 4 in the Olympic Games in this field, so there is no need to underline the quality, because it really is a top quality female race, the best we've ever seen in London.
Yegorova there straight away, number 7-10, second in the European Championship behind Mota in Split. And she gave us such a fright when she caught her on the mountains with just about 5-6 miles to go. And Mota's just behind her at the moment.
And right next to Yegorova is Katrin Dore of Germany, formerly of East Germany. She's got a formidable record. She's won 14 of her 19 marathons. They're number 545 in the newly recognized East German, West German strip, the joint affiliation. They've actually got the West German vest. We used to see them in blue, and they were easy to pick out in blue. But Katrin Dore is also going to be a danger to Rosa Mota. She was third in the Olympic Games, you remember, in 1988.
The Soviets there in numbers already. Number 715 is Kramenkova. Also up there is number 713, Varangalova. And Leslie Watson, this looks like a reasonable start. They're not going mad in the early stages, and that's the right thing to do.
Yes, I think the race won't really start till a lot later on. I don't even see Francie Leroux-Smith at the moment in the leading pack, which I think means that it must be a pretty fast start.
Actually, I think she's just in that group there. You'll spot her wearing 725. So we've got Mota there, the favourite already. Yegorova. Now the roles reverse as they're getting on towards the mile mark. Dora on the far side, three of the favourites. 715, Kramenkova of the Soviet Union. And incidentally, in the World Cup races, the first three from each nation home count in a team race. So if you've counted a team at the moment, the Soviet Union, with the reigning champions, very much the favourites.
I think the Soviet Union team came here to win this title because they do respect the IAAF World Series titles, and this World Marathon Cup is one of those. Like we said earlier, it's great to have this event in amongst the London Marathon. The real London Marathon, as we all know it and all love it, will start in about 25 minutes time, but this is a real race down there, and we've always looked forward to seeing Dore racing head-to-head with Rosa Mota. She wasn't quite at her best in the Olympic Games, I felt, and right next to Rosa Mota is Yegorova, who gave her that shock in the European Championships when she actually caught her with about 5 or 6 miles to go. That was a great race, but it was a big surprise for Rosa. She felt that she was going to be unchallenged that day. She doesn't feel that today. She says, I think I'm going to have to be racing, but when I get to the Houses of Parliament, I'll know I'm near the finish.
So we've got some good news of the wheelchair race. Chris Hallam, in fact, has not had to retire. He's had his chair repaired and has started, but he's a long way behind the rest. Oh, that was ridiculous. And that caught Mota, the favourite. Never seen anything like that in the London Marathon before.
Well, I was going to say that the London Marathon has been one of the great events that we've ever had in this country. We've never had any disturbance, we've never had any misbehaviour, and some youngster diving off the pavement straight into the tracks of Rosa Mota. It could have been worse, David. She could have actually brought her down, because she's a tiny and easy to upset runner.
Well, she doesn't look to be trouble there. I'm not quite sure whether the youngster was pushed or not by one of his friends playing around, but it was very fortunate indeed that Mota didn't get knocked over. 5:07 moving into the picture is Van Landegem of Belgium. .713 just behind Mota is Varangalova. Well, there's the first mile marker. We'll get some idea of the time. And they're just about there now. And the time, 5:35, and that's a fairly solid start. Not too fast by any means.
Well, that's a sensible start. By 5:35, it's about 2:26 pace for the marathon, and that's the kind of time that the leaders would be expected to run. I think it's great that the women are getting their day, Leslie. It's nice to see them. We'll see more coverage of the women's marathon today than we've ever seen before. It's good for women's running, isn't it?
Yes, and I think it's going to be a real race in the women's race. I think previously they've been very strung out, and this year I think it looks, by the time not being just as fast at the first mile, that it's going to be a race maybe rather than going for a good time.
Well, I think the reason why it's been strung out in the past is because we've had Greta Weitz and Ingrid Christiansen winning these races. Today, we've got Rosa Mota, the Olympic champion. And if you look at the records, you can't have a better record than Rosa Mota. 3 times European champion and reigning world and Olympic champion, and with firm sights to repeat those world and Olympic titles this year in Tokyo, later in the year in August, and next year in July in Barcelona.
Let's go back in the race and see what happened there with Mota. And I think that child might have been pushed there. Stupid behaviour, unforgivable. But Mota unruffled. Well, Mota's tactics are interesting. She usually sits back and waits a little bit, but she's forcing this from the start and forcing it at a sensible pace.
She's the most experienced marathon runner of them all. She's so reliable in competition. And I think quite sensibly she doesn't worry too much about times. She's more concerned about winning races because she says there's no point in comparing times in the marathon because the race itself is different, the conditions are different, the road surfaces are different. Sometimes you've got uphill races like in Boston in the last few miles, other times like London, you've got great courses. She says, I prefer to be judged on my competitive record.
Well, the Soviets with 4 athletes in the first 10. The West Germans with 2. The other West German behind Dollar, who's the tall girl alongside Mota, is Pressler. Pressler's now 29. Good record over the years. Winner last year in Frankfurt. 11th in the European, 10,000 metres in Split. .715 is Kramenkova of the Soviet Union. She's now 34. She's 5th in last year's London. 4th in the last World Cup. So the Women's World Cup race on the way to 2 miles now. And there's Alistair Hutton, last year's champion, waiting for the start of the men's race, which is at 9:30. Well, let's have a look now at the start of the wheelchair race when Chris Hallam didn't get away. Twice a winner, comes from Cwmbran. Quick repair job being done, and we understand he's actually got underway. Well, the wheelchair race started at 8:50, and they can motor, of course. They're a lot faster on these streamlined chairs than the athletes on foot, and that's why they've started them in front. The worst thing that can happen, and they've actually set a standard for the wheelchair race this time, which has eliminated many of the more handicapped people. There's been a lot of argument about that, but having said that, they've got a very international field indeed. And don't forget, it was run in just over 1 hour 57 minutes last year. Well, there's the leading group, and they've not far to go to the first real landmark, which is the T Clipper, the Cutty Sark. Here's Paul Dickinson with news of the leaders.
Well, it certainly was desperate luck for Chris Hallam because he was one of the favourites for this event. He's won the race twice before. We believe that Chris Hallam has started, and his personal best of 1 hour 45 is certainly one of the fastest in this field at the moment. And as David just said, we've got representatives from 12 different countries here, so it's a truly international event. And wheelchair marathon has really come on in leaps and bounds, as it were, over the last few years, because the course record of 1 hour 57 minutes is in great danger this year. We've got 3 men who've run under 1 hour 35, and amongst those, certainly 2 Swedes, Eriksson and Lindqvist, the 2 fastest men in the world this year. They're in that leading group, and we should be expecting to see David Holding as well of Great Britain, the 22-year-old. He was first in the 89 London Marathon, and he's the British record holder. So those 3, the fastest in the field, and we've got to just see them go past Cutty Sark. They're at the 6 mile mark, and it's proving to be a great race.
Well, the wheelchair race breaking up a little bit. By the way, there's a woman among them there, Connie Hansen, who won the race last year. Connie Hansen from Denmark. And in the Women's World Cup race, they're now breaking up. Dora still leading, Motor alongside them, Yogorova and Kramenkova together, then Pressler of Germany. One still tempted, Brendan, when you see that red-banded white vest, to say West Germany.
I'll tell you what was funny about that, David. The East Germans and the West Germans got together and formed one federation when the company was unified, and they had a big selection committee to design the new Germany athletics vest. They've ended up with the same one as they had before.
Actually, a word from Leslie Watson. Leslie, you tipped Larry O'Smith, quite rightly so, but she's just off that leading group at the moment, wearing 725.
Well, I don't think she'll let them get too far away unless she's in real trouble, but she did also say that she likes it cold, and the colder the better, and this is partly why she'd chosen London, which I think would give her an advantage maybe over Rosa, who's probably used to running more in warmer weather, and she's from a warmer country. The Russians also have been doing warm weather training. They've been in Florida, they've been down at the Black Sea, so I think they might be feeling a little bit on the cold side. I know they're very good competitors, and I think it will take more than a cold day to knock Rosa off, but I would think that might just give Francie the edge in some ways.
Also in that leading group, 605, is Skornik of Italy.
She's the one who's wearing the football socks on her arm there, David. The rest of them are wearing gloves, and she's got a pair of football socks right up around her, almost up to her shoulders. I suppose later on, oh, she's taking them off there on cue. Wasn't that good?
I think she was pulling them back on, actually. Well, there's the split times. That first mile time corrected. We have to take it from that wide angle on the screen, but corrected to 5:27. That is respectable. Second one, 5:29, a very even pace start.
And you can see why the group is whittling down, even though it is an elite field altogether, because that's good speed. They're travelling around about 2 hours 24, 2 hours 25 minutes. But the first couple of miles are really not the guide in this race. It's once you get to Tower Bridge and the halfway point that we can take a real accurate read on their times. But Rosa Motor means business, and Catherine Dora head-to-head with Rosa Motor. Well, if you look at their two records, they're very similar. They've both won 13 or 14 of their 19 or so races. Very rarely beaten, either of them. And it's good to see them head-to-head in this manner. And it's particularly good to see them in the World Cup Marathon, because we can actually watch them for much longer than we would normally.
Actually, this is a very fast part of the course. Somebody got knocked there looking for a drink on the top edge of the picture. And wise to take water on board, even on a cold day. Get it on board early, you won't suffer later on so much. But the fun runners, I think, on a cold day may find it rather hard at the closing stages. And it's important that they're reasonably wrapped up. I think a lot of them would be wise to start with long sleeve vests. Now, Leslie, you've run the London Marathon several times. This is a lovely part of the course for a runner. The road surface is good. It's sloping gently away, isn't it? And quite quick.
Yeah, I think there's slightly fewer spectators this year. I think it must be the cold, because I remember normally seeing quite a few more people around this area.
Still Dora, she looks a very strong athlete indeed.
Well, this is Jens Andersen from Denmark. He was one of the favourites for the London Marathon wheelchair title, but unfortunately had an accident, and he was very, very close to coming out of that wheelchair when he was turning around the corner by Cutty Sark. He seems to be okay, but a casualty of the London Marathon course for this year.
Actually, great efforts have been made on the course. We went round on Monday, and minor potholes were being filled in, because from a wheelchair race point of view, it's very, very important that the chairs don't get damaged.
We went around in a car on Monday, that I think David meant to say.
The men's elite race for the World Cup due in about 15 minutes. That will be run in something like 2 hours 10, The women's race 2 hours 15, no possibility, 2 hours 25 rather, some 15 minutes difference. There's no chance at all of the men overtaking the women. 11 in that leading bunch, just past 3 miles.
Just looking at the time there through 3 miles, they're running really quickly. They're under 2 hours 24 pace, which again I wouldn't like to take a read on it at this early stage, but you can tell by the way they're going, they mean business. And Rosa Mota pushing the pace along. This isn't, you know, she doesn't normally start pressing this early, but I think she's looked around. She's seen Yegarova, who gave her an almighty shock in the European Championships. She respects Katrin Dora, who everyone in the sport respects Katrin Dora, and she's got a sneaking respect for the track prowess of Francie LaRue Smith. Everyone in the sport realizes that Francie has got the superior speed, but I think Rosa, she's the boss of the marathon. She's here to win. She intends to win. She won't run very many more marathons before the Olympic Games next year, and I think this one is one that she wants to notch because she enjoys coming to England and she enjoys running in London.
Got a following wind there and enjoying it too. And in fact, this is the course they're running. "26 miles, 385 yards, following the line of the Thames." About 22.5 miles still to go for the leaders. With that group now well established, we go back to the start. Blackheath, where the victims of the Black Plague were buried so many years ago. And in a moment, the elite athletes will be lining up for the start of the Men's World Cup. Led by Bordin, the European and Olympic champion from Italy. There'll be 3 starts, in fact. One for fun runners, one for veterans, and one for the elite. Among the fun runners, the double Olympic 1500 meters champion, the world record holder at 800 meters, Sebastian Coe, who's talking to Brendan Foster.
Seb, I see you've announced your retirement from the marathon before you've ever run one.
Yeah, I thought it was prudent that way.
Is this your long-time experience in the sport to know what it's going to be like, is it?
It is, yes. I've done a few long runs now, and I feel sort of reasonably comfortable, but I don't think I'll be making a profession out of it.
So why are you actually doing this one?
I've always wanted to run a marathon. I've watched the London Marathon for the last 8 or so years from the pavements, and occasionally jogging around watching mates of mine running in it. I just fancied being a part of it rather than being a spectator.
So what happens if you actually run well?
Well, I don't think I'll make the World Championship team. I don't think anybody's got a threat of that. But no, the main aim really is to get the ADT Health Quest campaign, which they've very kindly sponsored, underway. It's a 3-year campaign, and the London Marathon was as good a place as any to launch it.
And you're going to be running through Docklands, which figure in your plans for the future quite largely,
well,
can't they?
I hope we'll be seeing a lot more of Docklands in future. Obviously, if the British Olympic Association give us the give us the nod on Wednesday, then Docklands, I think, will be could make a terrific Olympic venue.
Have you enjoyed your involvement in this Olympic bid?
Yes, I have. I mean, it's been hard work, and I'm very lucky in that I've got a terrific. I'm a part of a terrific team, and we're really looking forward to the presentation on Wednesday.
Seb Coe running for fun and running for charity for once, in the sense that normally he's deeply involved in the competition. But the fun runners all assembling on the slower start. That is Greenwich Park, and they stretched back, well, for about 3/4 of a mile. Well, they're there for a day out. Let's have a look at one of the men who's here for a real workout, one of the great athletes in the world today, from Italy, Gelindo Bordin, who is the reigning Olympic and European champion. He is now with Brendan Foster.
Gelindo, we're very happy to see you in London for the London Marathon. Obviously, your first time running a marathon in Great Britain. Everyone is looking forward to it. Are you looking forward to the weather?
Yeah, you know, it's very cold. Anyway, better cold than too much warm.
Yeah, that's right. How's your training gone?
My training was good. Was excellent until 2 weeks ago, and then I have little problems on little cold with a fever. But I think now all this is solved. Anyway, I think my condition is good. I hope it's like Boston last year.
You were going to go for a time, according to your coach, but in the last couple of weeks your training didn't quite come together.
Yeah, I was praying also for try to run around the world record, but you know, after these problems, something changed, and now I don't have a possibility to try to make a test, and so I don't know really what is my condition. Anyway, I will see Sunday, but the plan now is just to run with the packet of the group and then try to win the race, and also, you know, looking for the World Championship in Tokyo.
Well, Bordin's got a marvellous attitude towards marathon racing. Doesn't worry himself in the early stages usually, comes through late. He's a very, very patient man.
He really is, David, and that's a sign of confidence. Not only comes after years of training and racing, and his competitive record, which started in 1984, has got better and better till finally he won the Olympic Games in that marvellous race in Seoul in 1988. And we're looking at some of the elite athletes warming up. The elite field is about 250 strong. There's a strong team of Ethiopians. There's a very strong team of Japanese. British team we hope to figure largely led by Alistair Hutton or Dave Long or Carl Thackeray even. There's Henrik Jorgensen just carrying his bottle with a white band around his head on the left hand side of the screen. Won the London Marathon a few years ago. This is going to be a great race, this one, because I think Bordin, whilst we said he's the favourite, he had a little setback in his training, and I don't think he's going to run in the manner he intended, which was to go out and try and blast it from the start. So I think that leads the expectation for us to be a great race. And you can feel the atmosphere building, you can feel the nerves tingling. And whilst we look at the elite athletes here, let's not forget the masses, what this race is all about, because let's face it, if there are only 300 men, elite athletes running through the streets of London, there wouldn't be as big an event, would it?
In fact, there are more than 60 nations represented in the World Cup men's race. Nearly 80 nations represented in the whole event. Quick look at the leaders in the Women's World Cup race. Motor still there, Jagerova right there together. 5:07 is the Belgian Van Landegem, and the same group very much together. Actually, the pace possibilities in this, well, very difficult to assess, because obviously conditions are fast. You can see from that balloon behind that there's a following wind in the early stages. The road is flat. It's just sloping away from them gently, and with Ethiopians, Tanzanians and Kenyans very, very unpredictable.
It is very unpredictable, and I think Gelindo Bordin has been on the receiving end of some wild and crazy races led by the Africans. Sometimes they go far too quickly, and his experience, the European distance runner's experience, is to split the 26 miles evenly and try to run as consistently as possible. Number 121, there's 180, Gelindo Bordin, but next to him was Tony Milosorov, great Tipton Harrier. He's won more 3A's titles, team races and individual races over the years than probably anyone else. I mean, he's looking forward to a return to form here. He made the Great Britain team for the Commonwealth Games, the England team for the Commonwealth Games last year, but we haven't seen very much of him since.
Actually, the main Britons are Alistair Hutton from Caledon Park, Edinburgh, the holder of the title. It's Tony Malasora from Tipton, and his clubmate John Wheway, who's now 39, almost a veteran, but a very, very consistent athlete in these events, especially the London Marathon. John's almost always thereabout. 1, 2, 3 is an athlete with great talent, but he's not displayed it on the big occasion as yet, and that is Carl Thackeray. From Wales, we've got Steve Brace wearing 1, 2, 4. Dave Clark, former national cross-country champion, many times a cross-country international, 1, 2, 5. Hugh Jones, who's finished first, second, and third and fourth in this race, 1, 2, 6. Dave Long, who possibly is Britain's best hope.
Well, I think Dave Long will run very well today. He ran the fastest time in the Midland Road Relay a couple of weeks ago, which is a good measure because there have been some good athletes around that course, and he did particularly well. And he's here prepared. He's also coached by Alan Story, and there's Galindo Bourdin. I imagine he'll take that vest off before he starts. Yes, he's got his Italian vest underneath.
I think there'll be quite a stampede here, judging by the anxious way some athletes are pressing to the front. Bourdin certainly not in the front rank there. Well, he assert the authority of a champion and push his way through. I'm not sure. He doesn't seem very bothered.
Actually, you get that close-up shot of him. Cliff Temple in the Sunday Times reported this morning that he'd have a new career when he gave up distance running as a Western baddie in the movies, and you can understand why.
Khalil, number 2 of Algeria. He's now 36. The best time of 2:16. Number 82, just going through, is Dubé, one of the favourites from Ethiopia. He's very useful indeed. He's done 2:11, but is probably a better athlete than that. He's only 22. All start their own watches, don't rely on the officials. But of course some will be so far away from the lead car, they've got to have their own mile checks, make sure that the pace is right for them. Alistair Hutton, number 120, the reigning champion. Got a good record in the race as well.
Actually, Alistair's played his cards really cleverly. He wouldn't come down till yesterday because he didn't want to get involved in the media hype. He did the typical Scottish hiding away from the headlines thing. He was telling me yesterday that he did it deliberately. He refused to answer any phone calls in the last couple of weeks, and he came in here. He didn't want any pressure on him, and he's actually managed to do that.
Yes, Alistair's now 36. He's been a winner of this race last year, and third twice before, and he's run about 5 London marathons and run them all well. The barriers removed, and the athletes now on the countdown to the start. They've got about just over 30 seconds to go. Meanwhile, the fun runners streaming out of Greenwich Park to their start. What a difference in atmosphere there. All waving and relaxed and enjoying it. But this race now 10 seconds away from the start, and they're obviously raring to go. The Men's World Cup Marathon Championship. Gene Pickering sets them underway. There's thousands on that start, but all the World Cup athletes in the leading places and give priority at the start. A lot of good club runners there too. Looking for personal bests and admiration in the dressing room when they get back to their clubs.
It's all about the best time you run. It's all about Tuesday night, how you can explain it satisfactorily to your teammates. And there'll be 26 miles run today. There'll be several hours talk in the next couple of weeks about what they did. This is the bit that makes me feel really bad every year. I'm sitting here talking about it when really I think I should go back to the drawing board and go out and do it.
Actually, they're on the way from 3 different starts. Greenwich Park still packed, and it takes about 9 minutes to clear that start. fact, 9 to 10 minutes. With an entry of 34,000, there'll be a dropout of about 7,000, 8,000. The sick, the sorry, and the lazy, as they call them. And there's a good reason why those who withdraw, who've got a starter's number this time, are encouraged to drop out because, oh, look at that. Well, that's true of the sport. We all miss you wrong. But there's a good reason why they're not encouraged to start, because they are encouraged to take a number for next year. They'll get another number because they don't want too many casualties out on the course. If somebody starts who's not fully fit, especially among the front runners, we've got problems. Number 44 is De Silva of Brazil. The best time of 2 hours 22, so he's obviously out to crack that because they're fairly motoring along. 3:10 is Fessal. Number 82 is Dubé. Probably saw him at the start. 22 from Ethiopia. 55, Ramirez of Colombia. 51, Peter Mayer of Canada, is a useful athlete and often a front runner. The leaders streaming on their way, and meanwhile, the Women's World Cup, the leaders are approaching Cady Sark. Past the Naval Hospital and Queen's House, they've got that's where the 6 mile mark is, and just beyond that, the first real landmark, the famous T-clipper, the Cady Sark. It's Rosa Mota, 680, Jagerova alongside her, Dora of Germany just behind. Then we've got the Italian girl, Skornic, and the blue. Fogli is there too, also of Italy. And there the split time, so we're getting some idea of the pace. And that's a very slow 5th mile there, 5:41.
Well, I think that 5th mile was probably slower because the earlier miles were a little bit quick. 5:20 for the 4th mile and 5:26 for the 3rd mile. So they're on schedule for a very fast time, but I think a lot of the running has been done in the early part. I think that was a bit over-enthusiastic start. Jagerova right next to Rosa Mota and being followed by Katrin Dora, Emma Skornic, Laura Foley and Francie LaRue-Smith just at the back of that group.
Francie LaRue-Smith wearing 725. Well, it's crystal clear these are going to be the medalists. Passing the Royal Naval Hospital. Take a sharp right turn. And the detour round Cady Sark. Meanwhile, women at 6 miles, the men just about to complete the 1st mile. Have a look at the time. Around 4:40 for the 1st mile. Brendan Foster.
Well, I think that would be expected with a rush, but that's got no indication on the overall time, because 4:40 for the mile would bring them home in 2 hours and 2 minutes, and there's no way they're going to do that. And surprisingly for me, Gilindo Bourdin right into the lead immediately in that new style running vest that he's wearing there, which with a hole cut in the front so you can see his number, but he's quite sensibly decided to keep warm. He'll discard that in the later stages, but you can see already the concentration on his face.
Women making that turn now past the hospital and to the stately lines of the Cady Sark. The famous T-clipper that broke the record on the Australian run. Actually, the leading group being whittled down all the time. Now, as they come round the Cady Sark, there's a special ramp been built alongside the famous old ship. Takes them round the other side and back onto the road. certainly Rosa Mota, Leslie Watson, is attacking.
Yes, I think this time she has to, because she hasn't the best speed, and I think if one or two of the others like Catherine Doré or Francie are with her at the end, I think she might really be in trouble. So I think as the race goes on, she'll probably eventually try to drop them all together.
Certainly Lario Smith has joined that group as they come round the Cutty Sark back onto the road and set out for Dockland. First tour of Dockland, the Surrey Docks. Well, there's the big body of the men's field. Again, all these very good club runners indeed through the first mile.
Well, they owe their registration to Ron Eaton, who's the registration controller. He's 66 years of age, and after he registered just over 23,000 people yesterday with his team, he said, well, that's my work done, 5 o'clock. I'll go home for a good night's sleep because I'm running the marathon tomorrow. So Ron Eaton, you've done a good job. They've all got their numbers. We're looking closely.
The women approaching 7 miles as the fun runners wait to start. And Rosa Mota is making a bid to break them up, and it looks like being successful. Only Dora and Yegarova going with her. Dora, a former winner from Germany. Yegarova, who pressed her so hard in that European Championship in Split, wearing number 710. Then we've got the gap to the chasing group. Lario Smith there, looking very slightly laboured.
Well, she's done a lot of speed work. She's obviously in good shape over the shorter distance, but sometimes that can be done at the expense of the distance run. And you know the thing about this, the three of them are running in a line there. They're conceding the advantage to Rosa Mota. Dora and Yegarova are letting Rosa do the running, do the talking, and do the pushing. And this is what her championship record allows her. Whatever Rosa wants to do, they feel inclined to allow her to do it. So they're giving her the psychological advantage, because at this stage they could easily run alongside her, but no, they're letting her do it. They're letting her do it her way, and in the long run I think that'll play to Rosa's advantage.
Very slight incline just completed, and it is slight. Now downhill again. Lario Smith leading the chasing group. Also in that group is Pressler, and from Italy, Scorni, along with Fogli, also of Italy. Well, now an update on the wheelchair race as they approach Tower Bridge, which is the 12-mile mark.
Well, 12 miles gone in this wheelchair marathon, but still amazing progress by a group of 5 athletes there who are in the lead. And the man in the lead is in fact Eriksson of Sweden, one of the favourites for this event. And he's got a personal best of 1 hour 32, which is absolutely fantastic. And if they keep going at this pace, there's no doubt about it at all, they're going to break the course record. The sort of time they're going to be looking for is anything under 1 hour 57. Still no news of Chris Hallam, who had that desperate start when he had a problem with his wheelchair. But also in this leading group, David Holding of Great Britain, the British record holder, and first in the 1989 London Marathon. And so Holding there, challenging for the lead, but at the moment, Eriksson of Sweden comfortably in the lead with a group of 5.
Let's have a look at the men's race now. And the favourite, Bordin of Italy, is already pressing hard. He's at the head of that leading group. And Peter Mayer of Canada, number 51. Very much the front runner in the World Championship. He faded in the closing stages, but he likes to be up there as well. And Carl Thackeray of Great Britain's there as well. Number 380.
Right alongside Carl Thackeray is actually Steve Brace of Great Britain. In fact, I had a bet with Leslie that we wouldn't see Steve Brace in the race today. You've got great hopes for Steve Brace. You've won your bet. There he is. It's right next to Gillindo Bordin.
Yes, I think Steve Brace might surprise a few people, and I think it's great encouragement to some of the not-so-fast runners who are running here today, because he ran his first marathon in 3:08, and he actually ran his second marathon in 3:24, and he's now got a PB of 2:11. He's number 124. You can see him on the right of the screen.
Looking over his shoulder there, Steve Brace.
Meanwhile, the men well on the way, and the fun run athletes just on the way. There's a man, a brave man indeed, who I suspect we'll see a lot of, and I think I've seen him in the marathon before. Rosa Mota on the way to the 8-mile marker. Dora in second place alongside her. There's the check after 7. 38 minutes 40. The last mile 5:34, so they've speeded up again.
That's fast running. That's 2 hours 25 minutes, and in this group there's only Rosa Mota herself who's ever run faster than this, and you can tell she means business. Every opportunity she's slipped into the lead, and they've allowed her to do that. They've allowed her the advantage. I would think it would make sense for one of these other athletes to go in front of Rosa, just to try and dampen her enthusiasm, and if possible, and I think it is a difficult possibility though, is to try and damage her confidence, because she's a very, very confident distance runner. And that's the difference between Rosa and the rest of the group. They're all class distance runners, but she is one of the outstanding distance runners of all time. And it's a privilege to watch her running through the streets of London, and I think it's great for the women to be able to be seen in this manner.
They're already taking on water in the men's race. Steve Brace and Carl Thackeray up there for Great Britain. That is the Woolwich checkpoint, just around 3 miles, and they're the headquarters of the Royal Artillery, the longest facade of any building in Europe.
Well, I noticed Gelindo Bourdin slipped off his overcoat, as it were, and he's now in his racing mode. Right next to Gelindo Bourdin, we're delighted to see Steve Brace there, who's probably running a little quick for him, but Carl Thackeray right next to Steve Brace. But I'll tell you, David, if this was a 10-mile race, Carl Thackeray would be the red-hot favourite, and the question is, can Carl Thackeray translate his shorter distance prowess? His 20k UK record is outstanding. Can he translate it into a marathon? We don't know, his coach doesn't know, Carl doesn't know, but that's why we're here today.
Well, of course, he has run a marathon. He won the Merseyside Marathon in 1989 in 2 hours 14:19, but his potential appears to be something in the 2 hours 8:9 class. But the moment, one or two people feel he's a bit brittle, but the two Brits, Steve Brace and Carl Thackeray, having a word with each other. Steve Brace, member of the Bridge End Club, first in the 89 and 90 Paris marathons, and third last year in the New York Marathon, so he's got some miles on the clock.
And he's giving Carl Thackeray a lecture. I'm not sure whether Carl is desperately interested to hear it, because he's going to concentrate on his own running. But Steve, just like when he's out training, he's talking and he's chatting away there. Well, that's what they do in training, but not so often in a big race. I think concentration is more important. The second mile there, 4 minutes and 53 seconds, and it's quite not surprisingly, they go a little bit fast in the early stages, but you can understand why.
Well, there's always a bit of a stampede at the start of a big field race, because you want to get clear of the trouble, even though you know you may have to pay for it. The fun runners now from the fast start, going through at the mile marker, and that first mile has taken something like 14 minutes.
I've got to say congratulations to John Herring and the organisers at the start. They cleared that very difficult triple start line, the red, the blue and the green starts. Overall, everyone was running just inside 11 minutes, which is absolutely fantastic when you think they've got to come out of the park. And I wonder what happens to the banners and the T-shirts and the tracksuits that they start off with. I wonder whether they just leave them on the side of the road.
Actually, Bourdin has raised the pace slightly. Alongside 42 is De Souza, but Bourdin obviously running a very different race to his usual waiting. 4:52, 4:53, 4:42.
Well, David, Gelindo Bourdin will run the World Championships later this year. He'll run the Boston Marathon next year. He'll run the Olympic Games in '92, and then that's it. So he's only got 3 more marathons to run after this. And he was talking the other day about the fact that he'll probably never have a chance to run a really fast one because it'll be warm in Barcelona for the Olympic Games. It'll be muggy and very humid in Tokyo for the World Championships. And his plan originally, until he had this minor setback in his training when he had a bit of a fever and a bit of an infection, was to go for a fast time today, because he felt the London Marathon course was the best opportunity he was going to get, because the other race, Boston, is very, very hilly, and he found it very difficult to run there last year, even though he has committed to run there next year.
D'Souza there, determined to stay alongside Bourdin. D'Souza, number 42, the Brazilian. D'Souza, who won in Madrid in '89 and again in 1990. Steve Bray's just behind him. 380 is one of the late entrants. 215 is Ome of Kenya. 247 there, tucked in just behind one of the Ethiopians, Reda, or Moroccan rather. Also in there is number 43, who's Dos Santos of Brazil. So we got 2 Brazilians in the leading group. Oh, this is, well, it's the first time this sort of thing has happened in the London race. That's 2 incidents now. Once when Motor was pushed. And of course it's impossible to provide complete security on public roads.
Rosa Moda still leading in the women's race. They've gone through 8 miles in 44:14, which is still very fast. It's about 2 hours 25 pace, and like I said, there's only Rosa Moda ever run faster than that. And Dora may be sensing that she's given too much of the advantage to Rosa Moda, so Dora just coming alongside her there, just let her know she's there. And tactics do play a large part. It's the early part, the psychological advantage can drift one way and the other. And the marathon is such a long race that sometimes when you're running you're feeling really confident, and then a few miles later, Leslie, your confidence just all of a sudden ebbs away, doesn't it?
Yes, sometimes you go through a bit of a bad patch, and sometimes the thing that keeps you going is the fact that you hear the other person takes a big sigh. But at that level, I think if people feel dreadful, they'll probably be trying to keep it to themselves so that they don't give the other person encouragement. I see Sissel Gothenberg is in at the back, number 655. She's somebody who's run many of the London marathons, and she's run a vast amount of marathons, and her best is 2:32, so she's probably the slowest in the leading pack, but she's actually, you can't quite, she's just in at the left at the moment in the Norwegian strip, and she actually looks quite easy. She's always a very smooth runner, so maybe she's someone who could pull a little bit of a surprise today.
Well, Brendan was saying a little bit earlier about congratulations to the staff or the organisers of the London Marathon, but when you consider the logistics of organising a huge event like this, catering for the welfare of 34,000 runners, and the possibility they're going to consume over 1 million bottles of water. There are 29 ambulance stations out there provided by St John's Ambulance. It's an absolutely amazing event. So the start's certainly underway. And to get those 34,000 athletes underway in around about 11 or 12 minutes was a fantastic achievement. And that is some of the 1 million bottles of water already consumed. And so gallons and gallons of water there, quite sensibly being taken on board by the athletes at the early stages in the race. There's always a danger that dehydration could set in, but these athletes are looking after themselves early on.
Well, I was just looking at the statistics, Paul, and they come from every city and every county in the country. And I just went through the statistics, being odd-minded as I am occasionally, and I found that there's no one from the Isles of Scilly this year, and there's no one from the Orkneys. But apart from that, they're from every county in the land. A truly national event this is.
As the tallest building in Europe, Canary Wharf, way out of the Isle of Dogs. I've got a long way to go to get there yet. The wheelchair athletes, though, are in that vicinity. Canary Wharf not open yet.
Well, number 43 there in the lead, and this again one of the fastest men ever in wheelchair marathon racing, and that is Poitevin, France. He's taken over the lead from Eriksson of Sweden. So those two certainly in the frame as far as the wheelchair marathon is concerned. They're heading off towards the Isle of Dogs, so that means that they're coming up to the 17-mile marker, and they've just got a bit of a slope here. So negotiating the next corner is going to be difficult, and we've already seen one wheelchair athlete come out. So technique all important, and the control of the wheelchair very important. Still the same group of 5 as we had back at 12 miles when they were going over Tower Bridge. So this really the group of 5 who are going to be in the frame at the finish.
Well, they've passed the 9-mile marker. 5:30 for the last mile, settling down, 49.44. And the road surface in the Surrey docks has improved enormously. Rosa Motor just accelerating to get a clear run at the water. Dora of Germany in second place, threatening figure. 6:08 just behind is Fogli, experienced athlete from Italy. She's now 31. Yagarova, number 710 of the Soviet Union, silver medalist in the European Championship. 6:55 is Grottenberg of Norway. Francie Lario Smith in the red shorts and blue vest, United States. Pressler of Germany, just at the back of that group. Skornik of Italy beginning to suffer a little bit. And number 666 is Renata Kotkowska of Poland. That's the leading group in the men's race. We've got number 42, De Souza, alongside him. There's Shahanga, Alfredo Shahanga of Tanzania. And also up there is Nyambui of Tanzania wearing 376, and Dos Santos of Brazil, number 43. Number 232 is Cristanto. 253 also there is Kaeli. Two on 6, Manyisa of Kenya.
And just in the back of that group there I saw Alistair Hutton running sensibly just in the group and getting well sheltered. There's a good bunch of Britons in there. There's Tony Milosorov, Steve Brace, Carl Thackeray, all on the left-hand side there in the Great Britain strip, and just behind them Hugh Jones, Alistair Hutton. So we're being well represented there. As Alfredo Shahanga on the left-hand side in the yellow and navy vest of Tanzania. But in the lead, my old mate Solomon Nyambui, who won a silver medal in the 1980 Olympic Games, right next to Bourdin on the right-hand side of the picture, number 575. And this is a big group. Everyone seems to be there who matters in this race, but obviously we can't see them all, but it's a group of about 40 athletes. Just going through the 2-mile marker there. Sorry, 3-mile marker there. About 14.5 minutes, which is about the same pace as they've run for the first 2 miles.
Meanwhile, still out on the Surrey Dock area with the Canary Wharf building in the background. The tallest building in Europe, 55 stories, I think, 55 stories, 800 feet high. But it won't be the tallest building in Europe for long, apparently, because there's a bigger one being built in Europe. But there's some way to go to get to there, which is around the 16-mile mark. Dora of Germany alongside Mota. Jagerova where she's always been. Fogli of Italy right there. So too is the Belgian, number 507, Van Landegem. Lario Smith in the leading group, and Pressler trying hard to hang on, and Skornik. But Pressler really has lost touch, and Skornik dropping away as well. just through 10 miles. The Pole Kokowska looking very strong indeed, number 666.
Well, they went through 10 miles there in about 55 minutes and 30 seconds, which is about 2 hours 25 pace. So they're now settling down for what will be an outstanding run if they can keep it going at this pace, 2 hours 25. And as I said, there's only Rosa Moda who's ever run faster than 2:25. Dora has run 2:25.27, and Yegerova is running very well right next to Rosa Moda, exactly the same position as she found herself in the European Championships back in Split in August of last year. Laura Foley, the Italian team, just in there drifting off the pace, and Francie Leroux staying out of trouble, stay out of the pace, and just in the back of that group there. So they're all there. All the ones we talked about are in that group. Surprisingly, there's no Britons in there. We can't see Veronique Marot at all, who won this race a few years ago. She had some training problems a month or so ago, and she said she wouldn't be in 100% condition. This would have been a good race for her to do her best in, though.
Well, still back at Blackheath, so only within about 2 miles of the start, and still thousands and thousands of fun runners, although some of those guys are pretty serious athletes, so are the ladies. And the amazing thing about the London Marathon is the depth of talent that there is in this field, because a lot of these runners, perhaps not these people who are right back at the start, could finish inside 2:20. Last year 50 finished inside that time, and that really was amazing. But for these people, it's the event, it's the occasion, it's the friendliness of the event and the support they're getting from the crowd. They're the helpers, one of the 26 feeding stations along the event. Still a superb race for these people.
Well, a break in the men's race, a slight break, and this is Benjamin Longiras of Uganda. Hasn't got any previous marathon times, but he was trying to get away, certainly accelerated briefly, and the pack's gone with him. Although the men's split times, 4:52, 4:53, speed up to 4:42s, drop back to 4:53, and now 5:07.
Well, 24:27 for 5 miles. That's good running. That's 2 hours 7 or 2 hours 7.5 pace. So they're going off steadily enough. They're running fast enough to end up with a really good time today. And there's enough good athletes in this group to make a good time possible. Suleiman Nyambui there, number 376, made his reputation as a track runner, but looks really comfortable on the roads. Looks really strong, and he's trying to control the pace. He'll know exactly what pace they're running at, and he's keeping his teammates Gidemus and Alfredo Shahanga from Tanzania just in that group with him too. He's keeping them under control, and he's keeping the pace respectable.
Atoy in the centre of the shot. Sumaway of Tanzania, fourth in the Marrakesh Marathon, 2 hours 14:22. That's the only marathon we've got him recorded as running, but he's certainly been running aggressively.
Well, there's Steve Brace there with the blue gloves on, number 124, and right next to him, number 127, Dave Long. I'm pleased to see Dave Long there, and I'm pleased to see him in this position. This is the group where you need to be.
Kudo is the Japanese in that group. The Brazilian, number 43. It's Queen's House, lovely shot. They won't be acting like tourists, of course, in this race, but as they come down now towards Queen's House, which is the 6-mile marker, and then go on past the Royal Naval Hospital, the Seamen's Hospital, take the sharp right but round the Catiçal. Dos Santos of Brazil pushing it. Steve Brace is certainly sticking in there. Carl Thackeray right there as well, Alistair Hutton in the group. Dos Santos in the all yellow. Steve Brace right alongside him. Tanimala Sorov of Tipton in that group. Carl Thackeray there as well. Don't forget there's a team race as well. They're taking water on board there at 6 miles. And even on a cold day, Brendan, that is important, to get liquid back.
It is important to take a drink, but you'll notice the numbering system there. This is part of the organisation. The teams are numbered, they have their own tables, so they can prepare their own drinks, and their drinks were taken last night in a refrigerated lorry and placed out so they can get exactly the drink that they need, because some of the athletes prefer pure water, some of them have glucose content in those waters, some of them have electrolyte replacement drinks, but they all know what they want and they want their own drinks. Now I was quite interested to see how they all split up and they all headed for their own drinks. Some of them ignored them, but most of them you can see they're drinking and they're taking their time to get that drink. That's Tony Milosorov, who told me yesterday that he wouldn't be in the lead after 6 miles. He said, I'll be in the group, but I won't be hitting the front. I'll be controlling my running. Well, he's let his control run away, and he's in the lead coming into the Cutty Sark.
Tony, of course, has had a good London Marathon previously, when he ran 2 hours 9:54, 6th in '89. Actually, Brendan, whatever Tony says about what he's going to do, he's a natural front runner. I've seen him at club level, I've seen him at national level, I've seen him at international level. He likes to lead.
He does like to lead, but he doesn't need to be there. He shouldn't be there, in fact. He and Steve Brace, I would be happier to see them in about 5th and 6th place in that group, because it means that their concentration is still together. But when you let it go out like this and when you let it run away, then you know, you can get carried away with it. And he's in the lead now and he thinks, I'm winning. Well, he's got 20 miles to go, and Bourdin is very happy just behind him on his shoulder. But Steve Brace running well, staying just a little off the pace, which is quite nice. Now I think Tony better control himself. He's given up his full-time teaching career to try and concentrate on preparation for the marathon. His shorter distance races haven't been as good as they were in the past. He's a good class runner, Tony, and I think he'll eventually run another very good marathon. But I'd be a little happier for him if it was just a few yards behind the lead. He doesn't need to be in the lead yet.
In fact, of course, the Britons there are racing for a place in the World Championships. The first Briton home will get a definite place, and the others, of course, will get, well, very strong consideration, to say the least. Bourdin tucked in behind Tony Milosorov. Women's race, and still the same group. Moto, where she's been all the time, with a clear view of the road ahead. Dara 545 of Germany, 710 Yegorova of the Soviet Union. Just behind is Fogli of Italy. Also in that group, Van Lendegen of Belgium, right on the curb. And so too, we've got the Norwegian in there as well. I'm just taking a look at the time. 1:01:18 at 11 miles. Two fairly even pace miles there, 10 and 11. 5:46, 5:48.
That's good running. That's 2 hours 25, 2 hours 26 pace. And as I said, apart from Rosa Mota, the rest of them are running faster than they've ever run before. But this is the place to do it, and these look like the conditions to do it. They look favourable. They're not as cold as we expected they might be, but this is a good class race.
Well, Tony Milosorov is not awed by the big names. I remember actually when he ran so well in '89 and faded to 6th place in the closing stages. Nevertheless, he did attack, and it's in his nature. He may plan to take it easy early on, but he's aggressive by nature. Comes from Wolverhampton, runs for Tipton, that famous club in the Midlands. More familiar in the green and white hoops of the club. But well, we've got 4 Britons in that group at least. Alistair Hutton's just at the back there, the reigning champion. And in the team race, if it were counted at this moment, we would have a very good chance indeed. 3 to count in the World Cup team race. 51 is Mayer of Canada. 373. That just covered up his number slightly there. Could be one of the Tanzanians. That's number 373. Actually, just checking on 373, he's not on the entry list at all. But neither is 380 on the outside there. Sumawe of Tanzania. All the men of the Royal Artillery there at their headquarters, Woolwich Barracks. This is the 3-mile marker streaming through, and they're going to be on the road a long, long time. Look how wet the road is, though, in parts. It's not raining now, although rain is forecast later. It's not easy to drink and run.
But they're queuing up for the drinks there. When we organise the Great North Run, we often get letters from the runners saying, by the time I got to 6 miles, you'd run out of drinks. Well, it looks like they're well oversupplied here. They've got plenty of drinks, and they're all taking their time with it.
Well, the stately Tower Bridge, 12-mile marker, built in 1894. Dora, Motor, Yegorova, the leading 3.
Well, Leslie, you said there weren't very many spectators out on the early part, but there's plenty out here now, and the women are really enjoying this support, because normally there are men all around and they can't really tell who's getting the support, but it's clearly defined here. It's great to see this, isn't it?
Yes, Tower Bridge is one of the best spots, and it's a great spot for spectators because they can watch the leaders come through, and then they can go down below, having watched all the back people come through, and go down later and see the leaders go underneath. So it's an ideal spot.
I think it's a better spot on the way back than it is on the way out, isn't it?
Yes, this is right, although you do hit the cobbles at that spot.
Actually, the all-red outfit is Kukowska of Poland. He's got 2 Italians in that group, a Portuguese. There's only one of the Soviet athletes after a promising start, Yegorova. Larry O'Smith is still with the leaders there with the red headband of the American team. So Tower Bridge behind, they go on their way, and another couple of miles, the Isle of Dogs. So the women approaching halfway, and the men around the 7-mile marker. 378. Shahanga's 375. That's the 2 Shahangas actually together. 375 is Alfredo, and the 378 is Gidimus, we've seen many times in international events, and a good runner too. 380, the late starter, Sumaway of Tanzania, or late entrant. 42 alongside him is Da Souza of Brazil. 375 came through there very strongly. Nyambui in that group, and 375 is one of the late entrants, I think. Oh no, it's Shahanga again, sorry, Alfredo this time. Hugh Jones, first, second, third and fourth, 1, 2, 6 in this race. On 8-3 was Bernardini of Italy. Alistair Hutton's right there as well. Oh, we've got some of the club runners and the first of the fun runners going through at Kurdistan.
And some of these runners, David, very serious athletes indeed, and some superb performances expected. We were saying earlier that 50 people finished inside 2 hours 20 minutes last year, and that number is expected to be exceeded this year by far. And the number of athletes capable of running round about the 3-hour mark is increasing every year. It's really fantastic.
376 just pressing the pace there. Nyambui of Tanzania, veteran athlete. He's 38 now. Done it all on the track. Now looking for money on the roads. And he's a very, very effective performer. There the splits. They're a little bit uneven in parts, 4:53 and then 2 slow ones, 5 and 6. And that happened in the women's race, Brendan. Yet that part of the course is still flat, falling away very slightly.
Well, there's a big team out there every mile. They're brought together by the organiser of the St. Neots half marathon, and he's organised a team of 110 people, and they're out at every mile, 3 per mile, giving split times coming through. It looks as though the split times that are coming through are pretty accurate, but there is a deviation in times, and sometimes you get that when the group just settles down together, or maybe the Africans surge, and Suleiman Nyambui there, looking around, just drifting along and just setting that pace, and Carl Thackeray, you can sense just behind him on the right-hand side, desperate to get alongside him.
So from the leader in the Men's World Cup to the leader in the Women's World Cup now. Several miles ahead, and Motor seems to me to be pressing it hard now. The reigning Olympic, world and 3 times European champion from Portugal. Tracked all the time by Jagerova, who let her go too far. Had to make up too much ground in the European Championships. Caught her on the mountain, but Motor got away again. Dora on the inside for Germany. Fogli 6:08 for Italy. Kowska of Poland in the all red, just hidden slightly. Larios Smith of America, very much there as well. 1:07.13, a word from Brendan about the pace in a moment. That was a slower mile at 5:55.
Well, overall now they're around about 2 hours 26 pace, and you can sense that because the group is coming back together. Even though Rosa occasionally goes into the lead, she's not doing it with a vengeance yet. And I don't think her plan was to be on her own today. She felt as though she wanted to run in company. She felt it as though it was going to be competitive, and she felt as though she was competitive, so she wasn't worried about that. But they're always allowing her to dictate. If she wants to go fast, then the whole field goes fast. If she wants to slow down, then they slow down with her. And that psychological difference, the champion deserves that credit and deserves that position, but I think someone else wants to, if they really intend to win this race, they're going to have to do something about Rosa's domination of it. She's making them do the way she wants to do it. She's not interested in drinking.
Interesting. Kressler of Germany's got back in the race. She was actually some 10 metres behind, but she's back in there in the red banded vest. So Germans with 2 in that lady group. Dora, the tall figure, just alongside Motor.
The club runners and the fun runners still streaming around Cutty Sark, and the London Marathon, born out of Chris Brace's dream to establish a festival of sport and goodwill. He must be absolutely delighted with the response from the crowd, the organisers, the volunteers and the athletes themselves. And so many athletes, of course, running for charity. And there are 2 nominated charities that are going to benefit from this year's event: Action on Addiction and the Royal Marsden Hospital Cancer Appeal. And they're going to benefit enormously from the many novel ways these athletes have thought up to raise money. They're going to be dressing up for fun. We're going to see Charlie Chaplin's Supermen, Snow White, Paddington Bears and Father Christmases. And so as these athletes head off, possibly around about a finish time of 3 hours, 3.5 hours or so, we've still got thousands of athletes coming up behind them. And we just hope that these athletes are prepared well. And that just doesn't mean physically, but mentally as well, because this is a very, very tough event. Let's make no mistake about it. Tower Bridge, and they're part of the Women's World Cup event, and we've got many, many good women in this event. A truly international festival of sport. Many athletes overcoming disabilities to actually take part here, and there are so many stories to be told. Not enough time to tell it in, but Tower Bridge here is certainly one of the major features of the London Marathon. The whole course surrounded by historic landmarks. Thousands upon thousands of spectators here, and the spectators really an important feature of any marathon event, especially the London Marathon, because when the athletes become a little bit distressed, it's the spectators that uplift them. They get the applause all the way around the course. They get the cheers, they get the messages of goodwill, and some of the runners even get money for charity on the way around.
Well, the women just beyond the halfway stage, the same group still together. 1:12.40 at 13 miles, 1:13.20 at the halfway stage. Brendan.
Well, 2 hours 26 is the kind of pace that they've been running at, and Rosa Mota still in the ascendancy. Laura Foley moving up on the outside alongside her, and Katrin Dora where she's been all the time. Yegarova, the Soviet Union, just in there, and Francie LaRue Smith. We've never seen her, Leslie, figure in the lead. She's always stayed in that position. Being an experienced track runner, she gets used to following athletes. Do you think that's her plan for the day?
I think if she's not run too many marathons, she'll be just sort of tucking in there and not losing contact, sort of tucking in behind Rosa. And she has done a lot of distance work and for this race, but she says she's actually eased off on the quality. She hasn't done as much quality, unlike Rosa, who has kept all her training at very high quality. She has less natural speed, but has lots of quality in training.
In the men's race, we've got one of the Shahanga brothers out in front. That's Alfredo at number 375. Behind him, Bordin, stalking him all the way. 4:11. First time we've seen him. Mozgov of the Soviet Union. Also there is number 203, Kudo of Japan. 123, Carl Thackeray looking quite relaxed. Right on the outside now, 124, Steve Brace. We've got 44.22 at 9 miles. They're on schedule for something like 2 hours 8, 2 hours 9, so it's pretty sharp. Well, now things are happening in the women's race. Mota has again tried to make the break. Yegarova, totally different tactics from the European Championships in Split, and Dora now beginning to hang on. Mota is stretching them. And the field, well, down a single file now. It's Mota leading. Yegarova in second place, just beyond 14 miles. Dora is third, Foley of Italy in fourth place. These pictures being bounced from the mobile camera up to the helicopters, and the signals reflected back. I noticed a break there as they went under the bridge, affecting the signal. And Mota now is making her bid. She's never won the World Cup. I'm not quite sure she's ever run in the World Cup. So at her first bid, she's trying to add this great title to the Olympic title, to the world title, and to the 3 gold medals she's won in the European. 5'1". Very, very slightly built. Under 8 stone. In fact, she's nearer 7 stone than 8.
Well, what a race plan that was. Just run with the group till halfway, and when you get past halfway, almost on cue, she takes off and attacks, and now the rest have got some running to do. But she looks confident, doesn't she? She looks very, very smooth. She's the most admired marathon runner in the world. All the men distance runners really admire Rosa Mota. And I remember the European Championships last summer when she had that really tough race, and then 2 weeks later she came up to run in the Great North Run, and we couldn't believe that she was going to attack a half marathon only 2 weeks after the marathon, but she did, and she won it comfortably, she won it well, and it was that day that all the distance runners in the world said, hey, this is the best distance runner of them all.
Actually, she never runs for a time. Christensen, of course, is the fastest woman in history. 1:18.13 at 14 miles. That's around 2:25. I think she's just speeding up slightly.
It certainly looks as though she's speeding up, and she's decided she doesn't need the gloves anymore that kept her hands warm in the early part of the race. But I tell you, she's a delightful young lady. She was at the marathon conference the other day. She was where all the runners were getting registered, and she had time to speak to them all. She had time to sign their autographs. She had time to give them all a bit of advice on how to run the marathon, and she was really enjoying it. Some of the distance runners and some of the track athletes are superstars, and they don't like to mix with their public. But Rosa Mota is just as concerned about the mass participation as she is in her own particular performance. She relishes her contact with fellow athletes, and she really is a pleasure to be with, and she was great the other day. They were queuing up for her autograph, and she not only did she sign all the autographs, but she put a little message on each one, and she really has had a good time in the last couple of days. And she must be the easiest athlete in the world to coach, David, when all you've got to say is speed up when you get halfway.
She looks so frail and so small, but nevertheless her inner strength, her mental strength, so considerable. Leslie Watson.
I think one of the things that helps is that she says she loves every single training session. Her coach, Jose Pedrosa, and her boyfriend, he said that there is never a run that she does that she doesn't enjoy to the full. And I think this is something that came over at the press conference, that also Francie absolutely loves running. They can't think of anything nicer to do. It's their ideal of a great day.
Well, the thing about Rosa, after she's run this today, she'll be out for a run tomorrow. She doesn't even have days off between races or after marathons. She seems to recover from marathons better than anybody else, and you can tell how fast she's going now, the way she came around that corner.
Awkward corner, of course, that one, but my word, she's broken away so quickly in that last mile. Look at the gap she's created. That must be about 25 metres. Well, that's the lonely leader, but meanwhile they're going through in their hundreds. Cutty Sark. Well, we get hundreds of letters asking if we can pick up particular athletes who are all running for charity, but of course that's quite impossible, as you can see, when they're running in groups like that. Well, the wheelchairs now are one of the most difficult parts of the course for them, going through the grounds of the tower, but a carpet specially laid there over the cobbles, and not only the wheelchair athletes appreciate this, the people on foot also enjoy the cushioning from the cobbles.
Well, leading that group there is number 20, Daniel Wesley from Canada, and this really is a remarkable performance by him, because his personal best is outside of 2 hours, and he's mixing it in there with some of the best wheelchair athletes in the world who are close to 1 hour 30. So Daniel Wesley, the 31-year-old from Canada, really has made an amazing performance here so far. They're up to about 22 miles, so Daniel Wesley in the lead from Ericsson of Sweden.
And actually, they've got about, well, just over 3 miles to go. Meanwhile, 15 miles approached by Rosa Mota in the Women's World Cup race. And now she's just got to keep it together, keep going like that, and there's nobody better equipped to do it. 1:23 approximately at 15 miles. And the gap is quite considerable. It's Francie Larios-Smith now, the United States, Dora of Germany, and Yegerova of the Soviet Union. And Yegerova must be sick of the sight of Rosa Mota's back.
That's right, she chased her for 26 miles in Split in Yugoslavia, and she's chasing her again today. Bukowska, Poland, they're going through there, and I just noticed that split time for Rosa Mota, 1 hour, 23 minutes and 30 seconds for 15 miles, which means she has speeded up in the last couple of miles, and I think we could tell that. She really was doing well there. Back at the Cutty Sark there, this is the mass time there, this is great.
Men's race. Borden leading it. Shahanga 575. Simaway of Tanzania, number 380. 10 miles, 49 minutes, 28 seconds. So they're ticking on very, very well indeed. Just around, well, they're inside 2 hours 10.
49.28 for 10 miles, that's about 2 hours 9.5, yeah, between 2 hours 9.5 and 2 hours 10. And I think Gelindo Borden has decided that this is a good day to run a fast marathon, because he's been much closer to the front in this whole, even though we've had the Africans leading in this whole race, than he would be in a major championship where he's just trying to win. So I think we may see him get into the lead earlier than we anticipated, and that's if he's feeling as good as we expect. Carl Thackeray right next to him, exactly in the right position.
That leading group is number 296, Pinheiro of Portugal. 2 Brazilians right there as well. Number 42, De Souza, and number 43, De Santos. Well, in that leading group, we've got athletes from all over Europe, indeed all over the world. Africans prominent, but Borden tucked in. He's always menacing. Well, Rosa Mota looking a lonely figure, but a very happy figure indeed. Just approaching the mighty outline of the biggest building in Europe at the moment, Canary Wharf. Not opened yet, but almost completed.
Well, the blue line there, David, where she's following, the road was only completed on Thursday by Olympia and York, who put this thing down. So the blue line went down on Thursday, which is a remarkable piece of brinkmanship that we looked when we came down on Monday. We couldn't even get on here. But there's Rosa Mota relaxing now in the lead, pulling away a few miles and looking strong.
Now the men through the 10-mile mark. Surrey Docks they go through and then approach the Tower. Tower Bridge, 12 miles. The 380, Sumaway at Tanzania. Fourth in the Marrakesh Marathon, 2 hours 14, running above himself. 4:01 is Mozgovich or something. Gozovich of the Soviet Union. Also up there, Zillion of France. Steve Brace of Great Britain.
And there's Rosa Mota running right next to the biggest building in Europe. Like we said, the road was only laid on Thursday. She probably won't even be looking, she won't be interested now. She's concentrating on her race. The customary figure of Rosa Mota. We've seen this many, many times.
Tower Bridge, where the crowd awaits the leaders in the men's race. 12 miles behind them, 14 miles to go. Usual shot of the race through the Tower arches. And there's still, well, so many in contention.
Well, it's great to see the British athletes figuring there. Steve Brace, like Leslie Watson told us earlier, is certainly running the best race we've ever seen of him, and there he's seeing his time at 12 miles. Just behind him, Tony Milosorov running well. Dave Long in that group, and Carl Thackeray relaxing in that group, right alongside the Olympic champion Jalindo Bordin. And I hope that can help his confidence. I'm sure it will.
Ancient landmark, Tower Bridge, which dates back over a century to another new landmark. That Rosa Mota now emerging from the Canary Wharf area through the well, rapidly developing new face of East London. Every year one goes over this course, and every year there's so much that's different. Well, Rosa Mota has really split this field. I mean, the rest are out of sight.
Well, we got a split in the middle of that race when she broke away, that she ran the mile in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. which is incredible if that's absolutely accurate, which explains why she's as far away. But she's got that within her capability. She can run that quickly, and she can recover from that injection of speed. And I did notice when she was running through Canary Wharf, which suggests that she's pretty relaxed, but she was actually looking around, and I think she was taking notice of the Billingsgate Fish Market and that new Canary Wharf, and she's probably enjoying running along the docks there.
The new face of Dockland. Actually, the leaders in the men's race now are beginning to catch some of the stragglers in the women's elite race, but no hope, of course, of catching the leaders. Very encouraging at this stage to see so many Britons up with the lead, and quite unexpected. But nobody's made any real effort so far to break up the pack.
Well, the men, they're running around 2 hours 9.5 pace, which is quite a few of these people are capable of that. But the real race hasn't started yet, even though Galindo Bourdin looks to me as though he may be even considering the tactics of Rosa Mota, because he's getting himself positioned close to the front as they come up to the halfway point and as they come to a feeding station where they'll take on board a drink. Steve Brace running extremely well there, and Carl Thackeray in amongst it too.
Oh, we got 3 races going on, and this was the lead race, the wheelchair race. And look at them now playing tactics in the mile. They've got just over a mile to go to complete this marathon, and there are 5 in contention. And, well, the leader doesn't want to be the pacemaker because slipstreaming is allowed, and he's trying to avoid that.
Tactics are going to play a very important part at this stage in the race, and just on the left-hand side there, moving across, Daniel Wesley from Canada. He's been leading for about the last 4 miles. And on previous times, Wesley should really not have been up there, because he's mixing it now with athletes that have pushed their wheelchairs around about the 132, 133 mark for the marathon course. So a very welcome sight for them as they go up the mile towards Buckingham Palace. And then they'll turn down Birdcage Walk towards Westminster Bridge for the finish. And so this is really a time when tactics are going to be very important. And Ericsson there on the right-hand side, he's the fastest man in this group at the moment, and he's just satisfied at the moment to sit in behind Wesley. Wesley really perhaps looking for a bit of support at this stage in the race. They've worked incredibly hard.
There's Big Ben near the finish. They started at 8:45, so it's going to be a fast race without any doubt at all.
So number 20, Wesley from Canada, the 31-year-old, and on his right-hand side, talking to Håkan Eriksson from Sweden. Personal best of 1 hour 32, that's amazing. He was first in the 1990 London Marathon, so he's the defending champion. And all 5 there bunched together. In that group as well, Poitvin of France. He's 3rd in last year's marathon, so certainly one of the contenders for the finish, turning down towards Birdcage Walk now. So less than a mile to go. And up there in the leading group as well is Lindqvist of Sweden, and he's the fastest man in the field, so we're looking for number 2. And so the fastest men, with the exception of Daniel Wesley, who really is a surprise package here in this wheelchair marathon. As they start to pick up speed, the tactics really now forgotten. It's going to be down to sheer speed as they come on a slightly downhill stretch towards Birdcage Walk and the finish. Almost spread across Birdcage Walk there, and on the right-hand side, that is Lindqvist of Sweden, 32-year-old paraplegic. And number 20, Wesley, what an outstanding performance he's had today. His personal best recorded at 2 hours 8. I can't really believe that, because the sort of pace they're going at the moment, that would be a remarkable improvement on his personal best. Numbers rather difficult to see on the wheelchair athletes, but nevertheless we know that Daniel Wesley there, he is spearheading this attack for the finish line, and the same group of 5 have stayed together ever since the second time they passed Tower Bridge. And Poitvin of France is in there as well, number 43. There's Lindqvist on the right-hand side. You can just see Poitvin there, number 43, Daniel Wesley, number 20, in the lead. So those 5 still together. There's the welcome sight of County Hall and Westminster on the bridge. The first athletes to finish in this 1991 London Marathon. They set off earlier than all the rest of the athletes. And so these 5, as I say, having been together for about the last 5 miles now, they split away from the group after about 16 miles, and then they were a group of 6. Now they're down to 5. And this man Wesley really has had a remarkable day. Lindqvist in the blue and the white helmet there, just behind, cutting across from right to left. But Daniel Wesley, it is, who may be being dropped at the sprint finish. And in fact, it's number 42, who is Farid Amarouche from France. And he, again, really was not one of the fancied athletes to win, but he's the man who's come away with a sprint finish. So Amarouche of France, 31-year-old, competed in the 1988 Paralympics, where he won the 1500 meters in an exhibition out in Seoul. He's going to be the winner of the 1991 wheelchair marathon. A surprise winner. The 2 favourites, the 2 Swedes, Eriksson and Lindqvist of Sweden, left behind in the final sprint. An amazing performance by Daniel Wesley. But the Frenchman, Amarouche, the winner.
Rosa Motor in tremendous form with a big lead, and in fact the chasing athlete now is Francie Hilario-Smith, who's broken away from the rest.
Well, Rosa Motor did the damage a few miles back, and then she's settled in that group and she's settled in that lead, and Francie Leroux-Smith is really beginning to chase now. Rosa looks controlled, she looks strong, she looks comfortable, but Francie Leroux-Smith, who just set a American record at 10,000 meters a few weeks ago, broke Mary Decker's long-standing 10,000 meter record, and Francie's running very strongly. This is only her 4th marathon. She ran 2 hours 28 minutes last year in 2nd place, and there you see the 15-mile time, 5 minutes and 15 seconds. That's incredible running. And then obviously after that, 16 and 17, she slowed down, and she's running about 2 hours 26 pace, because they did slow a little bit before the halfway point. But this is the sight we expected to see. Rosa Motor controlling this race. She controlled it every step of the way. But I think Francie Leroux-Smith in 2nd place there. Francie Leroux-Smith from the United States of America. She's running the best she's ever run, and she's really doing well and chasing Rosa Motor. I think that gap may be closing a little, because I think Rosa paid for that exorbitant mile of 5 minutes and 15 seconds. She didn't need to go quite that fast to get the gap, but she did it her way, and she ran exactly according to her plan, which was to hit the front after halfway. Do you think Leroux-Smith can get back there?
I think Rosa actually knows what she's doing too well for that. I would like to see a close race, but I just have a feeling Rosa's so experienced that I have my doubts whether she'll catch up now.
Just through 18 miles there. 8 miles left to go, and a lot can happen in the last 8 marathons. Certainly, if it wasn't Rosa Motor, we'd be asking the question a little more deeply, because I think to run that mile as quickly as she did, then eventually that'll catch her up with her and be in her legs. The Olympic champion leading in the women's race, and the news from the men's race is that the Olympic champion is close to the lead in the men's race. Right next to them, Galindo Bourdin. But there's still a big group. It's a totally different event, this men's race. It's so competitive, but right in the lead, the Italian Olympic champion Galindo Bourdin. Alfredo Shahanga in the almost fluorescent strip, the yellow and navy of Tanzania. His brother's further back in that group. Carl Thackeray, we're delighted to see, he's tracking Bourdin every inch of the way. And they're speeding up a little. The 13th mile, 4 minutes and 40 seconds. So they've gone through halfway in just about 1 hour and 5 minutes. So there's a lot of them capable of running that sort of time.
There's the Soviet athlete Tolstikov breaking away. Number 410, he's making his bid, as Rosa Mota did, just beyond the halfway stage. Actually, you're very close with that work out of yours there, Brendan, to the actual time. 1:05:07, the official time, so just over 2 hours 10 minutes at the moment. Tolstikov going really hard away. Has run 2 hours at 9:20. He's 31. We saw him last year. He was 6th then. And the slower women who started in the Women's World Cup being caught.
I'm a little surprised that Bourdin didn't match that burst. It was gradual. It was obviously it was pretty quick to get away that much, and Bourdin just let it happen, which is not his normal style, especially to a fellow European runner. One doesn't mind letting the Africans go because they tend to run in bursts, but Tolstikov has decided to make this race happen. He noted anxiously over his shoulder there, and they're picking up some of the Women's World Cup runners, the tail enders in the women's race. And Tolstikov has set off with a vengeance there, and his plan, same plan as Rosa Mota, get to halfway and see if I can do it. Carl Thackeray right next to Bourdin in that chasing group, and I think Tolstikov was a little quick there. I don't think he needed to be that quick in that particular burst.
Well, I'm not sure that Bourdin's taking him for granted, but in fact probably knows his record. He's a fairly consistent athlete, but he didn't finish in the European Championships in Split, and he's never won a major event at all. He's raced all over the world, but never actually won one. Not the most elegant mover by any means, but he looks very, very strong indeed. Britain still well represented in the chasing pack.
Well, I think Carl Thackeray's running a very sensible race, and he's just tracked Bourdin all the way. But I think Tolstikov, he was almost sprinting there. He was almost flat out to get that gap. Now that's the next couple of miles that measure the question there. As we look at Europe's tallest building, the Canary Wharf, and we see the Docklands. I was talking to John Disley, the course director, yesterday, who says every time this course has to be changed because London's a living city, and the London Docklands is a particularly living city because everything's being changed. That'd be a good place to watch it from, David, the top of that building.
50 stories, in fact, 800 feet, the pinnacle. Well, you can see the amount of work that's going on, and really, it's a course measurer's nightmare. Every week you go back, something changes. Tolstikov catching the slower women in the World Cup race very quickly indeed. He's really pushed on. So nobody's really making an effort in the chasing pack to get them back on pace. Carl Thackeray is certainly running the best international marathon of his life. It's been expected of him, but he's getting it together.
Well, Carl Thackeray's only finished one marathon before. He's attempted 3, and he dropped out in the Commonwealth Games. But this is the one that he's come in prepared for nicely. Tolstikov, I mean, he's got to be thinking of this now as being a 10-mile race. He's got to get his head down and really battle, and he's doing that.
Tolstikov is certainly pressing on hard. He must have got 30 at 40 meters at least. Shows the gap well. Looking back to see what he's done, he's certainly done some damage. He's put quite a distance between him and the chasing group, but can he last out?
David, that look over his shoulder was a little anxious for me. It wasn't just checking how far they were behind, it was just seeing who it was. He's never been in this position in a major event before, and it's a test of his confidence and his background fitness, because I think that mile he inserted there, between 13.5 and 14.5 miles, will probably test him. Head down, battling away, but he's certainly making a race of it. And I'm a little surprised that Bourdin has let him go.
Actually, Bourdin, though, as we said at the start, is a very patient man, and possibly Tolstikov, he feels, is running Bourdin's race because he comes through late. He's very strong, Bourdin. He did that in the Olympic Games, and he also did it in the European Championships.
Well, I asked him about that. I said, don't you get nervous sometimes when you allow the leader to go away? He says, no, I am confident in my ability, and if the man is so good and he stays ahead of me, then he beats me, but I don't worry about it too much. My job is to maintain my own confidence and run my own race. There you are, look, 4:39 for that mile.
And my word, Brendan, he might pay for that.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's already paying for it, because that's very, very fast. And maybe I'm asking the question why Bourdin didn't let him go. Well, that's the reason.
And Bourdin, in fact, may be well satisfied that Tolstikov is playing into his hands.
It's a test of his confidence now. It really is. He does look serious about it. He's getting information from probably his coach on the side as he glances across there. He's giving him distances. Let's see if he takes a drink.
Actually, didn't take the drink, in fact. And meanwhile, we've got Connie Hansen of Denmark, who's the leading woman in the wheelchair race, and also details of the first 5 in the men's race.
Connie Hansen now going for a double because she won the women's wheelchair marathon last year, so this is a superb performance from her, and she's really held her own in this race in terms of not just winning the women's race but also coming ahead of some very, very strong men indeed. The first 5, of course, the first 6 or so have finished in the men's race, and we can give you an update on that. And it was Amarouche of France who eventually came through, with only 10 seconds separating the first 5 athletes. He finished in a time of 1 hour 52.52, and that was a new course record. So the record going to France. Second was Lundqvist from Sweden, and third was Poitevin of France. So the French finishing with gold and silver medals there. Saw Connie Hansen carrying on there. She's certainly leading the women's race at this stage. Great performance from her.
And just a word of warning about those placings. They're not official at the moment. As soon as we get the official placings, we'll let you know. Tolstikov still well away from the others in the men's race. Tolstikov working very hard indeed. Actually, the close-up showed he's still looking strong, and somebody in that chasing group has got to do something about it. The gap appears to have slightly increased. Spinheiro of Portugal. Shahanga follows it. Bourdin in 4th place, and looks like Thackeray 5th. Leader still working so hard, trying to take advantage of the gap.
Well, this is Connie Hansen coming in to win the women's race. She's going to be outside of personal best and outside of 2 hours, but still a fantastic performance. The London Wheelchair Marathon course confirmed as a slow course in terms of the amazing times they've been doing, but Connie Hansen declared as the winner. And as Connie Hansen comes through to take first place, we can confirm those results in the men's race and say that David Holding of Kettering was the first Briton home in 6th place, only about 25 seconds behind the leaders, so a great performance from him. So Connie Hansen delighted to be finished there, way ahead of the rest of the field. There we see the complete result with David Holding in 6th place, but Amaroosh the winner in a new course record of 1 hour 52.52.
And David Holding then, that's a remarkable performance by him, 1:54.39 in 6th place. He won this race when he was only 20, but in fact last weekend he competed in the Boston Marathon. It barely underlines that the wheelchair athletes recover very much more quickly than the people who go around on foot. Chris Hallam, by the way, is out on the course, who started late from Cwmbran, had a wheelchair breakdown right at the start.
Well, Rosa Moda looking confident now. She feels she's got this one under her belt, but Francie LaRue Smith is still attacking and still chasing, running very well in 2nd place, but she's running against the ultimate champion, Rosa Moda.
Just beyond 20 miles and on our way now to St Catherine's Dock. 1:51.02, 5:29 the last mile, so she's not, look at those last 3 miles, 5:15, 5:33, 5:29.
Well, that's the damage, and that's the class of the athlete. But doesn't she look strong? Doesn't she look comfortable? In terms of the overall time, that'll bring her home in around 1 hour and 26 minutes, or in fact, even under 1 hour, 2 hours 26, sorry. And she hasn't run faster than this for a long time. And the news in the men's race is Tolstikov's clear, and the Olympic champion in the men's race is in trouble. Gelindo Bodin's dropped off the 2nd group, and we wondered why he didn't match Tolstikov. Well, we found out that the illness he had a couple of weeks ago has probably damaged him more than he thought. Tolstikov battling away and looking strong, and 3 Britons in that chasing group: Steve Brace, Tony Milosorov and Dave Long.
Well, this is an unusual view of Cuddy Sark, but still some of the fun runners there, and I think these people we've got to start calling fun runners, because they're out there, we hope, having fun. Certainly that gentleman there is smiling, which is very encouraging at this stage. And the athlete's still getting a huge amount of support from this massive crowd that always lines the streets of the London Marathon. One athlete that won't be there this year, Mad Sharples, of course, supported every London Marathon since the start. Now 74 years old, desperately disappointed not to have been running. She's got knee trouble, but amazingly, she's now looking for a new career to start the London Marathon. Perhaps she can't do the run, but maybe she could
going through the Tower grounds. Always a rough ride there for the wheelchair, and there is a little bit of the cobbles uncarpeted, so they have a rough ride there.
So the athletes streaming over Tower Bridge. This is going to go on for a long time. Tower Bridge.
What made you go with this?
Around about the 12-mile mark. So they're halfway around nearly. And 1 or 2 athletes there look as though they're suffering a little bit. But they're still going to get a massive amount of support from the huge crowd around this course. And Bob Wilson there, interviewing 1 or 2 of the fun runners. The famous and the not so famous streaming across the bridge, and the BBC well represented again this year. Blue Peter presenters John Leslie and ex-presenter Peter Duncan, they're both running, and of course Sir Jimmy Savile heading towards what he says is his 200th marathon. And sportsmen as well represented. It's sad to see Frank Bruno not running this year, but we wish him well as he recovers from his eye operation. But boxing's Nigel Benn just made a successful comeback against Robbie Sims. He's running out there. Ex-world champion Terry Marsh, he'll be there, and Olympic judo medalist in the 1980 and 84 Olympics, Neil Adams. There's some of the personalities.
Tolstikov still pushing hard for home. And just looking back at the chasing group, it's difficult to identify who they are, but there's the gap, and it looks like Bordin who's leading that group, the Olympic and European champion. Shahanga appears to be there as well. And the gap, well, we're guessing a little bit, but it looks at least 50 or 60 metres, Brendan.
I think the group are now beginning to work to close that gap, and I think Tolstikov recovered from the injection of pace that he made earlier, and I think he's now beginning to run strongly. So I think he's got a real chance, but the chasing group are beginning to act sensibly, to work sensibly together, and they're starting to reel him in. He's happy in this position though. He's determined, he was determined, he broke away so quickly. The two Portuguese, Pinheiro and Mateus, well, they're both experienced marathon runners. Dave Long running a great race in that group too. Shahanga, and number 275, is in that group, and there we thought it was Bordin earlier, but it certainly wasn't. He's dropped off that group completely. But look at Dave Long. Well, we had a well represented. Carl Thackeray's dropped off that group alongside Galindo Bordin too.
Actually, in that chasing group, we've got the two Portuguese. Bordin definitely out of the picture entirely, so he's paying for that illness. But with Dave Long as well is Jurek of Czechoslovakia, wearing number 275. This is the chasing group. Matthias and Pinheiro, Dave Long. At the back of the red shorts is Jurek, and there as well is 375. That is Shahanga. Well, the Shahanga brothers. Well, a look of anxiety on Pinheiro's face. He realises somebody's got to do some work in that chasing group and get on with it. Dave Long was tipped as being the strongest Briton. It's turned out that way. He's bided his time. Not seen much of him, but always been in the pack. 290 Matthias looks strong enough, but they've got to share the workload. Alfredo Shahanga, one of the two brothers. This is the younger brother. And Jurek just behind. Jan Jurek, I said to Czechoslovakia, in fact he's in Poland, 2 hours 10 minutes 16. His best time, but he's going to be very close to that today, just through 18 miles. So the men's leader still with that gap of about 50 metres. Rosa Mota with an even bigger gap, winning the Women's World Cup for Portugal. And in the mile, Chris Hallam is the third man there from Cambran, twice a winner of the London Marathon, but had a breakdown at the start and started several minutes late.
Well, this is an amazing performance by Chris Hallam, MBE, because he did start a long way behind the rest of the field. And number 36 of that leading group is Chris Madden, 24-year-old from Great Britain. But Chris Hallam, he's finished first in this event twice. He's finished third 3 times. And he knew he was in good form for this race because he finished second in the Reading Half Marathon only 2 weeks ago. And so he must be desperately disappointed not to have been up with that leading group of 6 at the finish. He probably feels that he would have been. And as well in that group is number 14, Kevin Doran, again a Great Britain athlete from Huddersfield. And they're going to be some way outside of 2 hours. But it's Chris Hallam that is going to get a sympathetic round of applause at the end, because he feels that perhaps he should have been with that leading group. And because of that technical malfunction at the beginning, he started some way behind. But I'm sure Chris Hallam, the 28-year-old from Cwmbran in Wales, he'll be back next year, and he'll be finishing up in that top group of 6 again.
So back to the men's race again, and still Tolstikov with the lead from that chasing group, including Dave Long of the Massey Ferguson Club. Great Coventry City supporter, by the way, but tracking the race, and in the lead car is his coach, Alan Storey. Now, Alan, how big is the gap?
At the moment it's 17 seconds. He's pulling away 1 or 2 seconds a mile, but shortly they're going to have to turn quite strongly into the wind, and we'll be interested to see how the leader copes with that headwind. But the lead car seems to think that he's got a 50-50 chance of maintaining that lead. Chris Braysher's against it, and I make it even money, but it's going to be very interesting from here. The lead group obviously got an advantage, and they can share the pace between themselves, but he's put in 3 really good, strong miles to get away to that lead, and he must be fairly confident to take that lead on.
Actually, the Soviet athlete has never won a major international marathon. He's been on the scene a long time. But that chasing group, you'd like to see them working together, wouldn't you, to get back into this?
Yes, I mean, from Britain's point of view, they've got to work together, and they've got to start doing it in the next couple of miles. I mean, they could still have that lead in with 3 miles to go and catch it, but if it grows anymore, we're going to have the same situation this year as we had last year when Alistair was away. It's even with a chasing group, it's hard to pull that gap back, but he's got some work to do into the wind back to Westminster.
Thank you very much, Alan. Of course, we can't tell where we are remote from this, just how much wind there is, but of course they're slow in the closing stages. But it's significant there, in typical African fashion, Alfredo Shahanga of Tanzania, started to attack. Waiting for the lead athlete to come through St Catherine's Dock in the women's race. Just beyond now, 22 miles. And Rosa Mota, it'll be very interesting to get the time gap in this race and to see who's placed behind her in just a moment. Meanwhile, as the fun runners go overhead, that's several miles behind, in fact some 9 miles behind, Rosa Mota comes through. That carpet, so comforting. No matter how experienced you are, the feet, the legs, and tired. But Rosa Mota, one of the great competitors, her heart is so strong.
You said about the carpet, David, they certainly prefer the carpet to those cobbles, because the couple of times they've had to run on the cobbles, especially when it got terribly wet and the carpet disintegrated. But this is the sight we expected to see, which was Rosa Mota coming through, running over the speed bumps probably a little more efficiently than the lead car was. She's on her own. Her record is incredible in marathon running. In fact, she's won races by the biggest distance that anyone's ever won a championship. She won the World Championships by 7 minutes in 1987, and then she won the European Championships by only 5 seconds, so she's got all the experience.
So Rosa Mota goes on the way. We're going to get the time gap in a minute. See who is second athlete in sight. It should be Francie LaRue-Smith. It is. And the gap is considerable. And the American looking very heavy-legged indeed. And actually it's an enormous gap. Looks as if you're getting on for over a minute behind at least. And there's the third athlete, and it's Yegorova of the Soviet Union. So the 1, 2, 3, Rosa Mota leads. LaRue-Smith in second place and looking a bit unsteady, and Yegorova, the silver medalist in the European Championship, behind Mota in third place. Well, Tolstikov still out in front, but significant Brendan Shahanga leads the charge.
Well, I think he looked down the road and he said, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to have to go myself. But with 5 of them together, and with the particular 5 they've got, I think there is a chance that they're going to share the lead and they're going to start and close that gap. It was information for us to hear from Alan Story that they're now running into a headwind, and it's going to be very interesting to see whether Tolstikov can maintain that poise and that position he has. And Shahanga, the 2 Portuguese, Pinheiro and Mateus, the Polish athlete Huruk, and Dave Long still running well. Our best representative, by many to be figured to be our best chance here. Well, we don't know exactly what happened to Carl Thackeray because he was running extremely well. And as we said, we were very surprised to see the formidable Olympic champion Galindo Bourdin drift off this group. But Shahanga's doing them a favour now, David.
Certainly is, and somebody needs to do something. Thackeray, of course, and Brace of Great Britain, and Marasora, France so well, but that burst by the Soviet athlete, 4:39, wasn't it? Made such a difference, and it would break a few hearts.
But it was a terrific burst, and I think the next mile he suffered a little bit himself from it, but I think the extra training that he's done in preparation for it and the style that he ran, I think in the next mile or so he recovered from it, and he certainly looks as strong as anyone in the chasing group. And when he begins to smell victory, then who knows, but he's looking over his shoulder. He's looking anxiously over his shoulder, but really it's more important for him to concentrate on himself. It's up to him now. If he stays together, if he stays mentally and physically intact, then it's his race to win. And he shouldn't be bothering himself, worrying about the chasing group. They've got the work to do. He's done his work.
Actually slowed dramatically, hasn't he? We'll get a check on what should be the finishing time in a moment, 1:33.27. But the news they're into a headwind will certainly slow them down. 4:50, a dramatic slowing down, and then 4:56.
Well, that's about 2 hours 9 and a bit, and so he has picked up considerably though. But he's looking controlled and he's looking strong, but they're not at 20 miles yet. 22 miles to the finish. That's what the marathon runners say is the tough one.
Looking at the group just behind. Well, Shahanga's let Matthias take over. Pinheiro of Portugal with him there. Good for Portugal in the World Cup team race. Dave Long seems to be sheltering most of the way there, keeping out of trouble, and not prepared to do any work. Jurek of Poland is the other athlete there, number 275. But Rosa Mota clearly demonstrating her domination of women's marathon running. Not the fastest in the world. Christensen has run faster, so too has Joan Benoit, but there's no athlete in the world with a better competitive racing record. She's won 13 out of 18 marathons already. She's won the Olympic title, the European Championship 3 times, the world title, and now it looks certain the World Cup. 2 hours 2:18 at 22 miles through St Catherine's Dock, and that means, Brendan,
well, that means she's going to run inside 2 hours 26 minutes, which would be an excellent run if she did that, because knowing her lack of interest in fast times, 2 hours 25 minutes, Leslie, it would be an exceptional performance, wouldn't it?
Yes, and especially for, you know, as you say, for someone who's not really interested in the time, she's got an amazing lead. I think the temptation could be to hang back a little bit on what she has, but she's obviously not lazy, and she's going out there to have a good run.
the race, of course, follows the line of the Thames, and while we've got the glamour athletes in the front, the thousands behind, well, Tolstikov, the men's leader who started with these athletes, is now approaching 22 miles, and they've just gone through 12. The difference between St Catherine's Dock down below, the whole loop of the Isle of Dogs, some 10 miles.
There's Bob Wilson!
Well, the cry is, where's Bob Wilson? He's certainly on the bridge, and we may be able to get some interviews with the front runners later on.
This is Lawrence here. How's it going? 12 miles. Fine, thanks. 12 miles gone. Another 14 to go. I'm feeling good. I'm doing this for the spinally injured. I work for Lily White, and I'm having a brilliant time. Oggy, oggy, oggy! Can you tell me where your hairdresser is? I quite like that. That's a secret, otherwise they can't be running with this. Second year. I hope this is the second year I get on telly. I'm having a brilliant time. Okay, bye. Bye.
Well, I bet that wig's feeling a bit hot at this stage. It's a crucial stage for these fun runners because they're coming over Tower Bridge at 12 miles. And psychologically, when they're seeing runners go underneath the bridge as well, 10 miles ahead, they shouldn't really take too much notice of that because they've got a long way to go. There's one of the feeding stations there where thousands of bottles of water will be taken on board by these athletes. So important for them not to get dehydrated. And there's Chris Hallam getting some sympathetic applause from the crowd. I don't know if they realise, of course, that Chris had a problem at the start. This is not the normal sort of finishing place he would like. He knows that this is not to be his year, but I'm sure he'll be back. Twice a winner before, and he'll do it again, I'm sure.
Well, from the finish back to the woman who's going to finish first in this World Cup. The split mile times, 23 miles at 2:7:57, 5:39 for the last one. As we've heard now, into a headwind. Running along the embankment. In the far distance, of course, you can see the finish. Reflected because you can see Big Ben and Westminster Square. But in fact, she's got a loop to do, and she turns right shortly along Northumberland Avenue, then into Trafalgar Square, and under the Admiralty Arch into the Mall. In a moment, she'll just pass Cleopatra's Needle, which is 24 miles. Originally from Egypt, its twin stands in Central Park, overlooking the New York City Marathon course. The news is that she's about 70 seconds in front of Larry O'Smith, with Yegorova of the Soviet Union still in third place. Must be a lovely feeling coming along there when you're feeling strong and you know the race is sewn up.
Yeah, I think Rosa will be really enjoying the atmosphere and enjoying hearing the people calling her name along the last bit.
She really is the most universally admired athlete in any event. Her record is incredible. She's found herself in this position many, many times in the championships, and that's what the athletes like about her. She runs the other races. She's run Boston, she's won there. She's now run London for the first time, and she looks like she's going to win here. But her championship record, 3 times European champion, world champion, and Olympic champion. Her whole seasons are always based around the championships, and with the growth in the big city marathons, it's great to see an athlete of her caliber picking out the major championships as the event that she wants to win.
Cleopatra's Needle, the 24-mile mark. As I said, originally from Egypt, its twin stands in Central Park overlooking the New York City Marathon course. The crowd's growing and packing the route now. Miles, 2:13:44, slowing, and of course this is an exposed area of the course with the news that there's a wind against here coming off the Thames. 5:47 the last mile.
It'll be closer to hours 26, but I think she'll probably lose interest a little in pushing herself in the last couple of miles because she'll probably already be thinking about the World Championships, which comes up in Tokyo, and trying to defend her title. She said she'd like to be accompanied for the last along the Mall and around Buckingham Palace, but you know, she's not found herself there, and I think she'd be happy that she's run the last 13 miles on her own.
So Rosa Motor well on the way to victory, but what's happening in the men's race? Tolstikov of the Soviet Union is still in front. The athletes being caught, by the way, if you've just joined us, are competitors in the Women's World Cup race that started half an hour before the men. But he's a very, very strong athlete. Let's see if the chasing group is making any sort of impact at all. So Matthias, number 290, 375 is Alfredo Shahanga. Also there is Pinero, 296, Dave Long of Great Britain, and Jurek of Poland. Although they seem to be working hard, they don't seem to be making an impression. And certainly no one's making any sort of impression on Rosa Motor, but what an impression she's made on the world of marathon running.
Well, that's right. I remember back in 1982 when the Portuguese Federation wouldn't allow her to run the European Championship marathon unless she ran in the 3,000 meters first. So she did that, finished about 12th in the 3,000 meters and said, okay, can I have my own way? Can I run the marathon? And we didn't even know her then. And she came along on that dusky night in Athens where there were more motorbikes and people running on the side of the road, I remember. And she came and she won that one. She then went on to win the world, to finish fourth in the World Championships in Helsinki, and then third in the Olympic Games. And since then, all the major championships. First in Stuttgart, first in Rome in the World Championships, first in the Olympic Games in Seoul, and then first in Split in the European Championships. And I think Split showed me what a tough athlete she was, because she was chased all the way by Yegerova. In fact, she only won that one by 5 seconds. What a fantastic athlete she is. And like I said earlier, she probably is the most admired athlete in any event in the world.
And having had that trouble with the Portuguese Federation, by the way, it is astounding with her record that she's still not been pre-selected for the World Championship in Tokyo. But surely, when you look at that record, that is nonsense. Through Admiralty Arch and the long stretch along the Mall with Buckingham Palace beckoning in the far distance. There's a gap of 75 seconds with Francie Larios-Smith in second place and still Yegerova third.
Well, when you think, Leslie, that only less than 10 years ago, women weren't even running the marathon, and there was no marathons in the major championships until the 82 European Championships, and yet the London Marathon has brought the streets of London to a standstill, and women's distance running is able to celebrate that by Rosa Motor leading them down the Mall. That must be a great moment in the whole movement of women's distance running.
Oh yes, and I think Rosa has made a big difference to Portuguese women because they have quite a few good runners now as well. And apparently when she started, it was really frowned on for women to run, and they used to get all sorts of catcalls when they ran in shorts. And she's changed the whole situation there and has become a local heroine.
And Francie Larios-Smith, well, back in 1972, she ran the Olympic Games in the 1500 meters. And here we are, almost 20 years later, running her best marathon ever, second place behind Rosa Motor. That's been a great career, her, and a great inspiration to all women distance runners. I remember that 1972 Olympic Games, Greta Weitz was also running in the 1500 meters. But apart from those two, I can't remember any other athlete who ran in the 72 Olympics who's still active internationally, and probably Francie Larios-Smith is that. In third place, Yegerova of the Soviet Union, who's run well here. I think she's given up the chase on Francie Larios, so it looks as though this may be the finishing position. And I wouldn't be surprised if Rosa Motor starts to enjoy the support of the crowd.
Tolstikov going through there. And let's check what the gap is now, but it's quite considerable. I've been trying to work it out. It looked like about 33 seconds. And the chasing group now are really not in touch. They're just in sight at the back there, the 5 of them together. But it looks to me as if they're running for second place now, because the seconds are ticking away. And the gap at the moment is 20 seconds. And it's more than that, in fact. Now 25, in fact 30 seconds. And they're over 30 seconds behind the leader. And that is going to be very hard to pull back in the closing stages.
Well, if anything, he's pulled away in the last couple of miles, and he's able to concentrate on his own race whilst they're trying to be competitive.
Rosa Moto showing signs of possibly of being a bit tired, but it doesn't really matter now. She's done her running when it really mattered, broke away at halfway, her stride shortening a little bit, and her arm action looking a little bit heavy. 2:19:24 at 25 miles.
Well, I think she could run 2 hours 26 if she wanted to, but I wonder what the motivation for her to keep running hard. I think Rosa is such a sociable person that she'll probably come down the road here enjoying herself and celebrating with the crowd. She had been around the course and she checked out the landmarks, and she said, I asked her about Buckingham Palace, and she said, oh, I know that, that's near the finish.
Actually, Francie Larios-Smith has kept going extremely well, because with 4 miles to go, she looks very, very heavy-legged indeed. The gap is in the region of 75 seconds. We're trying to show what that means in terms of distance. But, I mean, she's way out of sight. Round the corner and gone. Do you agree, Brendan? Looking a little shorter in the stride. Perhaps a little bit tight in the arm action, but it just doesn't matter anymore.
Well, I think when you look at the pace that she ran just beyond the halfway point, she probably felt a little tired about 17 or 18 miles. And it's really all about motivation now. If there was someone with her, then we know how tough she is and we know how she can be competitive. But she's probably happy to be enjoying this. And she's, you know, for a distance of 26 miles, she's so predictable, Leslie, that it's quite amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it was such a classy field to win it so easily, and to be able to throw in that 5:15 mile right in the middle of it is just incredible. I think she's got to be the favourite for the next Olympic title.
I bet you're sitting here feeling a bit guilty, because I know where you'd rather be.
Well, it's been very nice watching the race, but I do feel terribly unfit watching them all at such high standards. I'm also wondering now how Francie Larios-Smith is, if she's going to do a personal best, because she was very keen to beat her 2:28:01, and obviously by as much as possible.
The voice of Leslie Watson, a British athlete who's run 171 marathons. Will be out next in the Isle of Wight Marathon, and has covered this course many times. As Francie Larios-Smith in second place at the moment. And actually, it looks as if she's closer than she is, in fact, with the foreshortening and the long shot, the long lens of the camera. But she's kept going extremely well in this last 4 miles, because there were signs of distress going through the grounds of the tower, and she's got the threat of Yegorova of the Soviet Union behind her. Rosa Moto with time to look around and smile. Somebody called from the crowd, she had a look across and smiled, and there we go. Royal procession. Someone threw a Portuguese flag, it looks like there, nearly did some damage. That's the second incident she survived, having been pushed by a small boy in the opening stages. Might have fallen then, and might have fallen again then. Well, Big Ben in sight, and the finish this year is in the centre of Westminster Bridge. Started at 9 o'clock, about 2 hours 25 minutes gone. Even the traffic lights turning to green. And so, a great champion has the finish in sight. Rosa Moto of Portugal, now 32. 19 marathons, and with this one, she'll have won 14. Her record is astonishing. 3 times the European champion, the Olympic champion, the champion of the world, and now the winner for Portugal of the World Cup. Just relaxing as she comes home, safe in the knowledge that she can't be beaten. Smiles all round. And this, one of the smallest women in the race. Only 5 feet 1, weighs just over 7 stones, and what a moment to savour. Finishing with a smile. The time unimportant, the title means everything. And what a collection. 3 European golds, Olympic gold, World Championship gold, and now World Cup gold. And here with the silver run is Francie Larios-Smith, the American who's been on the international scene since the early 70s. She's now 38, recently set a new American record for 10,000 meters, beating Mary Decker's old figures. She comes through to finish in 2nd place. Her time will be interesting because she's trying to crack her personal best. Two hours, 28 minutes and 1 second is her best. And she's going to beat that without any doubt at all. A lot of determination there. She's begun to believe in herself at this distance, but of course, she's run into a superhuman winner in Rosa Motor. She's got the clock in sight. And she must know, beyond doubt, this is her fastest ever marathon. 2:27.36, and she takes the World Cup silver medal. Sally Ellis of Great Britain appears to be the first winner. Mary O'Connor of New Zealand is right there as well. And meanwhile, in the bronze medal position, the Soviet athlete who took silver in the European Championships. Yegorova comes home secure in 3rd place. So it's gold for Motor, silver for Larios-Smith, and bronze for Yegorova. Well, now the men's race we can concentrate on, and we've still got Tolstikov in front, and he's on the embankment. Running right alongside the Thames, exposed to the wind that's blowing off the Thames, slowing the race down in the closing stages, and behind him the chasing group of 5 remains unbroken. The 2 Portuguese, they're well over a half a minute behind. Matias and Pinheiro, Dave Long of Great Britain in that group, Shahanga of Tanzania, and Jurek of Poland, right at the back. That's the powerful figure of Matias, Portugal, in front. Pinheiro looks to be suffering a little bit, just hanging on to him. Dave Long is sheltering from the wind there, and it looks as if, Brendan, they've given up all hope of the gold.
It seems as though that's the case, and now the second thing is the positions, because there are big money prizes in this London Marathon, and I'm sure they'll be conscious of that. So it's, do you be a hero and try and chase the leader and haul him in? And that's what Mateus seems to be intent on doing, even though he's not making any impression. Pinheiro just behind him, this fellow Portuguese, but now they should be considering their own positions and their own time, their own timing and their own finishing place. Tolstikov seems to have got better in the last few miles, and now he's done so far after leading just past halfway. He'll be determined that he's not going to just let this last couple of miles, a mile and a half, turn into a losing stretch for him. He's being well supported, and I notice he's been getting information from the side of the road, and he's been very intent on that. He's been looking at his watch and hearing the calls probably from his coach and his team members. But he's looked strong. It's been a surprise. We were very surprised to see Gelindo Bourdin fall off the pace as quickly as he did, and I'm sure Gelindo will be as surprised himself because he was very confident beforehand.
Well, this group lost the race just beyond the half-mile mark, the halfway mark rather, when as in the women's race and the similarity was quite astounding. As Rosamoda broke away just after halfway, so too did Tolstikov.
That's right, it seemed as though he had a plan, and his plan was to hit the front past halfway and see what he could do. Now I think this is a good test for Dave Long. These are world-class athletes, and he's in amongst them. He's heading for a position in the World Championships, and I talked to him yesterday, and he said if he found himself in a position where he was selected for the World Championships, which this would be automatic selection for him, he'd have to go away and take his time and think about it, because he wasn't sure that he could recover from this race and then run a marathon in August again, especially in Tokyo, where he knows it's going to be humid, because he's not very good in the hot weather.
Actually, with two Portuguese there, they're in a strong position in the team race. I don't know who's backing up Tolstikov for the Soviet team. Certainly there's been no other Soviet athlete in sight for quite a long time. But the first three home count in the World Cup team race for each nation. There are 60 nations competing, not all with full teams though. And actually, as the race has gone on, Tolstikov has looked more comfortable. He was working really hard at the halfway stage. Looked, well, inelegant to say the least. But he's certainly moving better. And now approaching Admiralty Arch. A nice shot there, which shows the sweep of the Mall right up to Buckingham Palace. Then the left turn, and they come back along Birdcage Walk to Westminster Bridge.
I remember in the 60s the Soviet athletes were really good distance runners, but I can't remember a Soviet athlete winning a major marathon for a long, long time. And maybe the resurgence of distance running in the Soviet Union is coming about by them being allowed to be more free in order to train abroad and to race abroad and to experience competitions like this. But this is the first Soviet athlete for a long, long time who's won a major marathon.
Still Matthias doing the work in the second group, followed by Pinheiro of Portugal, Dave Long of Great Britain, Jurek, the red-banded vest of Poland, and just behind is Shahanga now of Tanzania, Alfredo Shahanga, younger of the two famous brothers. Chasing group going through the arch, and Shahanga of Tanzania is in trouble. Dropped off that group of five, so the race for silver and bronze is down to four. Now it looks on that shot as if they're closing. Whether in fact it's deceptive because of the foreshortening, I'm not sure.
In that group, David, Dave Long must be a real inspiration. He was a footballer, and he started his marathon career with a marathon of about 3 hours and 9 minutes. And that wasn't too many years ago. And then he thought, I'm pretty good at this, I'll see what I can do. So he's a great inspiration for all the others today.
Here now, we've now got number 562, Sally Ellis of Great Britain. We believe to be the first British runner to finish, member of the Birchfield Club. And Veronique Marrow just behind her of Leeds City. Is going to be close here, and certain selection, one assumes, for these two in the World Championship. But Marrow, the fastest Briton ever, who has been injured, been ill as well, has come through very well in the later stages. Seems to be closing, but Sally Ellis very aware of the danger. She's 32. Marrow, so long the British number one. Catching her, but it may well be too late. Sally Ellis very tired indeed. But she comes through 2 hours 34:42, the first Briton home, we believe. Marrow in second place, and surely these two have earned selection now for the World Championships. Meanwhile, on the Mall, the World Cup appears to be bound for the Soviet Union, the individual title. Tolstikov, very economical, Brendan, hardly any backlift at all.
He seems to be shuffling along, and when he went past halfway and he began to run like this, he was accelerating more. He was lifting his knees and he was pushing harder, and at that point I thought he was almost flat out, but you can obviously see he's a strong man rather than a fast man. Well, it's great to see one of the Soviet athletes come over here and take the big prize money, because they'll value it much more over there. than they will in Great Britain. I'd like to see him run in the World Championships and see if he can repeat this sort of performance, because when he gets back to his hotel and he reads the results, he'll feel and he'll see what class athletes he's beaten. 25 miles there in 2 hours, 3 minutes and 18 seconds, so he could be on for about 2:09, which would be outstanding.
I must say that's a pretty impressive time if they've been into a headwind in the closing stages. And meanwhile, another Briton finishing, and that's Sally Easthall of Ipswich, now 28. She was 18th last year in this London Marathon and had another good run. We're assuming she's the third Briton to finish, so she must be in line for World Championship selection for the race in Tokyo later in the year. 2:36.20, the approximate time. And by the way, the World Championship team will be selected tonight in both men and women's races. Tolstikov well away and looking stronger with every stride. He's going to be the winner of the World Cup and the London Marathon. And last year's winner, Alistair Hutton of Edinburgh, still out on the mall, about a mile behind, looking tired. Been injured and ill since he won the race last year and had to miss the European Championship, but coming back strongly, but it's been a difficult race today. The finish of this 26 miles, 385 yards trip, about 300 yards away. Check on the chasing group, who are behind him in birdcage walk. And a check on the athletes. Jurek of Poland is 2:75, Matthias is 2:90 of Portugal, Pinheiro of Portugal is 2:96, and Dave Long of Great Britain, a member of the Massey Ferguson Club at Coventry. And Shahanga has dropped off the pace. Dave Long's going to have to work hard to get in the medals. The scene at Westminster Bridge. I think this win at international level may even surprise the Soviets. Viktor Tolstikov is now 31. He's never won a major international marathon overseas. Well, he's run several. He is the reigning Soviet champion and clocked his best time ever of 2 hours, 9 minutes, 20 seconds back in 1988. And he becomes, without any doubt at all, the first Soviet athlete to win the London Marathon. And he's got the double pleasure of not only doing that and taking some, well, many thousands of dollars home, but also winning the World Cup gold medal. 2:09.19, that's a good run in today's conditions without any doubt at all. It was okay in the early stages when the wind was behind, but the wind against in the closing stages. So he may well have just have broken his best time. Very close to it. Well, now the race on for the minor placings, and Dave Long is not in the silver or bronze position. The athlete's being channeled towards the right finishing funnel. And Jurek of Poland and Matthias racing it out now for silver. Jurek 2:75, 2:90 is Matthias. And what a battle to have now after this long journey. 26 miles behind them, just yards left. Jurek trying to save himself, Matthias working hard there. If determination means anything, the Portuguese has got the edge. But Jurek's got the lead he needs. He's just settling in behind there, but Matthias comes home to take the silver. Jurek of Poland takes the bronze. Dave Long is the first Briton home in fourth place. A fine run by him. predicted to be Britain's #1, and that is certainly a personal best by him. In 5th place will be Pinheiro of Portugal, and we missed him going through. In 6th place, Shahanga. I assume Pinheiro's gone through. Then Alfredo Shahanga of Tanzania, and that means in the team race, Portugal have got 2 in the first 6. And I think I could see Steve Brace of Great Britain in the background. Yes, Steve Brace there with Mayor of Canada. Yep, this is Shahanga now in 6th place. And now let's pick up the others. This could be the race for 7th place. It's Steve Brace of the Bridgend Club in Wales. Best run ever by him, I think. And Mayor of Canada working hard, but Brace looks to just have enough. So Brace of Bridgend finishes in 7th place. Mayor of Canada in 8th place. Number 98 going through 9th. He was Asamat of France and Betty Old 10th. And then number 112 of Germany going through, followed by 329. Doble of Germany. Fortina of Spain. 84 is Selassie of Ethiopia. And behind him, 182. Faustina of Italy, so the Italians with 2 in the race. 186 just going through as Gonzalo of Italy, so they've got their first 3 home already. Hugh Jones, 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the London Marathon before. And here today, he comes through. Fine run by him to become the 3rd Brit. And will he be selected tonight for the World Championship? 3 Britons in so far. Dave Long, Steve Brace, and now Hugh Jones. And I wonder what the selectors will do tonight.
Well, the selectors got a few options, but I thought that was an outstanding run by Hugh Jones, an excellent run by Steve Brace, and Dave Long. Well, that's great to see him at this level of competition when you think only about 5 years ago he was a fun runner running 3 hours and 9 minutes, and he's now an international and a world-class athlete.
So they're finishing in numbers now, but here's the young woman who finished alone. Rosa Mota adds to the World Championship, the Olympic Championship, 3 European goals, the World Cup.
Thank you very much.
And she's talking to Gerald Sinstam.
It was hard because of the windy. It was, I'm sorry, it was very strong in front, and well, I ran only to win the race.
And you didn't see very much of the opposition, did you?
No, I feel good, and I tried to run the second half faster than the first. And I'd like to say thank you for the crowd, because they helped me a lot. I feel I'm a runner at home.
Once you broke away, did you know how clear you were from the chasing pack?
Not in the first mile, but after my coach talked with me, and he told me they were a little bit behind me. Say be careful because of the weather, and enjoy the race.
Now you look very, very fresh. How long will it be before you run seriously again?
Well, I'm going to do my next marathon, and that will be hard. It's in August, the World Championships in Tokyo, yes.
So what happens between now and then?
Do some small race, like 15K, 10K, perhaps here also, because I like to compete a lot.
How soon do you go out running again?
Tomorrow morning.
Really?
Yes.
Well, many congratulations on a fine race and another super victory.
Thank you very much once more, and thank you for all the crowd in London. They helped me a lot.
Nice to see you here again.
Thank you very much.
Rosa Mota, one of the great champions of all time. Well, this is the unofficial check on the first of the few in the women's race. All select athletes. Rosa Mota, the winner from Portugal. This unofficial, by the way, but no doubt about the win. All the second place, Larry O'Smith of America. Yegorova of the Soviet Union third, Dora, who's won this title previously, of Germany in fourth place, Lalou of France in fifth place, Kokakovska of Poland in sixth place, Barangalova of the Soviet Union seventh, that's 2 Soviet athletes in, Watanabe of Japan in eighth place, Zueva of the Soviet Union ninth, and Villani of Italy in 10th place. And just checking on that, we've got Soviet athletes at third place, 7th and 9th, and I would say they've almost certainly won the team race. The team race, by the way, the first 3 athletes home from each country, and then they add the times together. But surely, Brendan, that can't be beaten.
Well, a great day for the Soviet Union. Winner in the men's race and the team race in the women's race. We've had 2 outstanding runs today. Tolstikov of the Soviet Union breaking away at halfway, and the great Olympic champion Rosa Mota. We didn't see Jalindo Bodin, the men's Olympic champion. I think he probably dropped out.
Well, just to check on the first 3 Britons home who are in line for selection, not automatic selection though, by the way, when the selectors meet tonight to choose the World Championship team in Tokyo later this year. Dave Long was the first Briton home. Steve Brace from Bridgend was second. Hugh Jones, a winner previously of this race, in third place. And now we can see the other Britons coming in of that leading group. And Gary Spring, that is, wearing no shoes at all. Gary Spring, 27, comes from Luton. Alistair Hutton is going to be the 5th Briton home. We're having a look back on tape at this. Alistair Hutton, the champion 12 months ago. Checking on the time, just over 2 hours 14 minutes.
Well, I was very interested to see Gary Spring there, running in bare feet. I wonder how he found it over the new roads through the Isle of Dogs. I mean, there's a lot of work going on those roads, and I think Gary Spring could probably run fast if he had shoes on, Leslie.
Oh yes, I'm sure he's someone to watch. If he gets a pair of air sole shoes, I think there'll be no stopping him. If he gets Alistair Hutton's shoes, I think he's got it made.
Bill Bedell just finishing there, 2 hours and 17 minutes. Some good performances by the British athletes and some surprises overall in the race. The women's athletes, well, 2:34 for the first British finisher, Sally Ellis, and then Veronica Marrow. I think the women will be a little disappointed with those times, don't you think?
I think Veronique was hoping for a better time. I think it's quite near to Sally's best. Her best is 2:33, but I think it was maybe a bit windier than we realised here in the studio. Sally Eastall had a good run. She wasn't very far off her best either. She's Britain's fastest vegan.
Well, I think the resurgence of the Soviet Union as a distance-running nation maybe was started today with the winner of the men's race, Tolstikov, and then the team race for the women.
Now, apologies, by the way, to Sam Carey. Gary Spring we named as being the 4th Briton home. In fact, it was Sam Carey, who comes from Warrington. So apologies for that, Sam, as we check now on the first 10. Tolstikov of the Soviet Union, a very good winner indeed. In the conditions, a very fast time, 2 hours, 9 minutes, 17 seconds. Beats his best time by just 3 seconds. So 3 reasons for delight: the dollars he's won, the World Cup gold medal he's won, and the personal best he's run. Mattis of Portugal in 2nd place, given the same time as Jurek of Poland, who was in 3rd place. Dave Long, the first Briton home from Massey Ferguson, 2 hours, 10 minutes, 30 seconds. Fine run by him, coached by Alan Story. Panera of Portugal, 2 hours, 10 minutes, 38. Then Shahanga, Tanzania. Steve Brace of Great Britain, 2 hours, 11:45. Mayer of Canada, 2 hours, 11:46. Asimov of France, 2 hours, 11:49. And Bettiol of Italy, 2 hours, 11 minutes, 53 seconds. Now, looking at that, the first 3 runners home count in the team race for each nation. Portugal have done really well there, with Matthias 2nd and Pinheiro 5th, rather. But Britain, too, in the top 10 as well. Dave Long and Steve Brace. And as I recall, our 3rd athlete, Hugh Jones, wasn't all that far behind, but it depends now on the Portuguese athlete, because it's the combined times of the first 3 that count in the World Cup Championship.
Well, you talk about combined times, David. Excellent times. Personal bests in 4th place for Dave Long and in 7th place for Steve Brace. And I think with Hugh Jones' time added up there, then the Great Britain team will certainly have medals in the team race for the World Marathon Cup.
And by the way, the value of Tolsikov's run is the fact that it's the 3rd fastest run ever in London. Well, street parties going on all around the east end of London. And there's a familiar face, 34800, the man from the Potteries. That's Eric Newton, who runs around playing the clarinet and has now joined one of the street bands, but he always finishes. Comes from Stoke-on-Trent. Well, as these runners go through, they've trained so hard for the London Marathon. It's worth recalling that while the front men in the World Cup have been running for dollars, these people have been raising dollars. And in fact, over the previous 10 years of London Marathon, it's estimated, it's impossible to get it accurately, that between 40 and 50 million pounds have been raised.
And together with the amazing amount of money that's been raised from this London Marathon, some fantastic stories of courage as well that are coming out of the athletes, the endeavour, the pain that they've gone through, the huge amount of training that they've had to do for this marathon. In fact, around about 9,000 people entering this event for the first time.
You're doing 50 press-ups every mile. Well, we're about to come up to one, so I might join you for a couple.
Sure, you're welcome.
But you've done 12 miles. Yeah. Are you not feeling as if you think you'll really make the other 14?
I try my best.
How do you know that the mile is up?
Huh?
How do you know the mile's up?
Well, I can see the mile markers.
So we're just coming up to it here, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
And how many press-ups?
Well, when I 50 press-ups a mile, so...
Right, so where do you do it? Just beside the road?
Yeah, I can do it just over there.
Okay, on the side here, yeah?
Correct.
All right. That's about 30. Keep going. 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. See you later on.
Yeah, okay then.
Well done.
Well, an amazing performance there. I'm not sure what happened to Bob Wilson's press-ups, but that was Michael Titre, who's a teammate of Linford Christie's. And he's planning on doing these 1,300 press-ups throughout the 26-mile course. And in doing so, he'll be raising over £2,000 for Great Ormond Street Hospital.
Actually, while a lot of these people are turning out for their own charity choices, raising money, the two official charities chosen by the London Marathon this year, the Royal Marsden Cancer Hospital, which is trying to raise £25 million for better premises and to extend its research and treatment, and the other charity is the Action on Addiction, and they will get they'll be the official beneficiaries of the London Marathon. That's the scene at the end, where they're immediately wrapped in those foil overcoats.
Well, I think they're going to be quite useful today because it is cold, and if you're out there, we've been talking about the elite athletes, but if you're out there for 3 or 4 hours running in these conditions, because it is cold down there, then I think the space blankets at the finish will be a very welcome addition. And I think what they did last night was they took the space blankets, as they call them, around the course and distributed them around there just in case anyone was having trouble, because it's very strange that all shapes and sizes seem to have trouble in the cold conditions. It's not if you're tall and thin or small and fat, it doesn't seem to make any difference, and you'll never know till you get out there. And I think they had to take out the insurance policies, because when you've got 24,000 people running, then you never know, and you're responsible for the organisation, and I think they did very well in doing that last night.
Where is home to all of you in Japan, obviously?
Office, Japan, Kanagawa, Japan.
Yeah?
My work is Odakyu Lines Railways contractor. Railways contractor, yes.
Well, are you enjoying it?
Hey, enjoy.
Enjoy?
Hey, enjoy.
That's good. It's nice to talk to you.
Yes, thank you.
I think I understood. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, okay, goodbye. Bye-bye. How you doing? You stitched me up there.
I love that. He always manages to find the one who doesn't speak English, and he said he understood it. That was Mr. Harai from Japan. He comes from Osaka. He's a member of the Full Marathon Fun Club. He had a bit of fun there at Bob's expense.
Well, the gentleman dressed as a Red Indian there, 9050, is Barry Ward from Ireland, 24-year-old. And he's finished marathons before in 3.5 hours as the huge crowd goes through. Still a vast number of runners with an awful long way to go. And this is in St James's Park. Slightly more relaxed atmosphere than there is out on the course still, and there still will be out on the course for another 3 or 4 or even 5 hours. Thousands and thousands of athletes still out there. The slowest athletes expected to finish in possibly 8 hours, but there are a large number of athletes coming up the Mall towards the finish, and the standard of this London Marathon just gets better and better.
Good morning. Now, was it sounding better than that at the beginning, or at 12 miles are you beginning to flag a bit?
I'm enjoying myself, that's all. The music's not coming out very well. I'm a bit dried up, but otherwise I'm enjoying myself.
You're changing the tune as you go, aren't you?
Trying to. Having a bit of difficulty remembering it at the moment.
Are you fatigue set in?
No, not necessarily. It's just the euphoria of the occasion. It's absolutely marvellous.
Wonderful. What's your name?
I'm Graham Clayton.
From?
I'm from Hull, but a lot of people know me in Beverley.
Do they? Okay.
They
All your friends in Beverley. Okay. Let's have another tune from you. This has got to be special. Now, come on, whatever. Anything out of your little memory bank.
It's a very special lady's birthday today.
Yes.
And she lives just up the road.
Yes. Are you talking about Her Majesty?
Well, we'll see.
Well, I bet there'll be a few of the carnival runners who'll be singing happy birthday, a few bars of happy birthday as they pass Buckingham Palace. The Queen and the Royal Family, by the way, celebrating her 65th birthday at Windsor Castle.
And the man playing the trumpet was Graham Clayton from Hull, a member of East Hull Harriers, an athletic club, and probably expected to finish in around about 4 hours. It's perhaps at this stage in the race that we might recount Bruce Tullow's words recently when he said that Pheidippides, the Greek messenger, has probably got a lot to answer for. Some of the athletes feeling the pace a bit now, but still probably well over 20,000 athletes out on the course. There's Little Devil, number 27561. That's Michael Gale from Birkinshaw in Bradford, and raising a vast amount of money, I'm sure, wearing that uniform.
We'll tell them to come this way.
And some of the athletes really thinking of the most ingenious ways to raise money. Amongst them, Humphrey Walters, who'll be raising money for the Royal Marsden Cancer Appeal, selling space, getting as many signatures as he can on his vest and shorts, each one raising a vast amount of money for charity.
Imagine a Sheffield Wednesday supporter going through there with the colours of Sheffield Wednesday when they're playing in the Rumbelows Cup final later this afternoon, but perhaps he's lucky enough to have a ticket as well.
Well, I think that's the plan, because I met a few of them in the hotel this morning. They were running the marathon, then they were going off to the final.
Now then, I don't really have to ask who you're raising money for.
Hereford Heart Transplant Trust.
Yeah, what's your name?
I'm Ender Singh.
Is that acting as a windshield today, or?
I'm trying not to look like a butterfly. Because if I put on my back, I'll probably fly off.
Why did you choose Harefield, which is a wonderful cause?
Well, a friend of mine, his 9.5-year-old son, died on New Year's Eve waiting for a new heart, Navjeet Mangat, and I thought what better cause than to help Harefield raise £1 million appeal that they've got.
That's marvellous. First marathon?
6th consecutive London.
Is it really?
Yes.
But first time that you've been wearing the giant heart?
Yes, I try a different costume each year, and last year it was Obelix the Gold.
I'm sure you'll collect a lot of money. It's a great cause. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
There's the London scene, and what stories to be told individually in the London Marathon. We get hundreds of letters every year from people competing, hoping to be spotted, and the stories are fascinating. But as we look at the faces and numbers going through, you'll see how impossible it is for our cameramen. I say this on their behalf, having worked all around the world, BBC outside broadcast camera, among the best in the world, if not the best in the world. But it's impossible to pick up individuals. But I've got a lovely story here from St John Vianney Roman Catholic Primary School, with individual letters from no less than 26 children. And their headmaster, Adrian Metcalf, is running in this, wearing number 33835. And he'll be delighted to hear that one of his pupils has written with a description of him, in case we can't find the number. He says, well, he's tall, and he's very, very skinny. He might be wearing a ginger wig, but if he's not wearing a ginger wig, he's got hair at the sides and nothing down the middle.
I think I've just seen him, David, on that description.
That's headmaster Adrian Metcalf from a Blackpool Roman Catholic Primary School. 26 children, though.
Well, somewhere out there is a whole family of marathon runners. The 7 Edwards brothers from Stoke-on-Trent, and they're running for the North Staffs Heart Research in memory of their mum, who died of a heart condition, so the whole family getting out there to support them. And as David was just saying, we get a lot of letters, and there are some amazing stories to be told. And some of those more courageous athletes. Simon Robson Brown, he's an 18-year-old from Cookham-Dean in Berkshire, and he goes to Radley College, where he's in his last year. And he won a music scholarship there. But he's a haemophiliac, and he's running in his first London Marathon. He must be one of the youngest athletes to do so. So there's a story of courage, along with so many others.
Oh, here's Tina Turner, obviously.
Yes, Tina Turner.
Is she a favourite of yours?
Brilliant, yes.
What's
I
your...
look like her at 50, I'm at 9.
Yeah, what's your name?
Jenny Newton.
From where?
Solihull.
Yeah, you enjoying it?
Brilliant. 40th marathon today.
Is it really?
Yeah, great.
What made you have this get out?
Well, I had an operation at the end of it last year, and I thought it'd less pressure if I dress up. I won't have to run fast. And it's working.
You're looking great.
Thank you very much.
Keep
Bye.
going. Bye-bye.
Well, still in the mile, and still an enormous number of athletes are going to finish inside the 3-hour mark. London Marathon holds quite a number of records for men and women finishing marathons inside certain times, and inside 2 hours 30 1983, 299 athletes finished inside that time, so it'll be interesting to see whether we've got near that sort of performance this year. And also in 1981, under 3 hours, there were nearly 3,000 people finished the Boston Marathon, and I'm sure that would be a record Chris Brazier would like to take. And look at this. A group of policemen there, I'm sure raising a huge amount of money for charity, complete with truncheons and uniforms. And this is a sad sight for any marathon runner. I'm sure the crowd getting behind him. Now he's not got far to go. He's in birdcage walk, but he looks absolutely tired. Not quite sure about the number, but yes, he's certainly the Hull man, number 1659, Phil Dewberry from England. And he'd be terribly disappointed if he doesn't finish, but he's getting a lot of encouragement. There's lots of officials out there on the course looking after the welfare of all these runners. That's so important. And perhaps the early pace, a little bit too quick for Phil Dewberry, but he knows how far he's got to go. Just over a mile to go. So Phil Dewberry gets a big cheer, quite justifiably. He'll get encouragement as well from his fellow competitors, and I'm sure he'll finish the race.
Well, they've been running for 2 hours and 36 minutes, and when you think about it, this is good class running, you know. They're doing 6-minute mile pace here, and these are the men who go out training every day, and they're 2:36 for a marathon is a very good time. You can see the odd one back at 22 miles here. You can see the odd muscle being stretched. I don't know whether he's a spectator out for a run or he's halfway around the marathon. But you've got to admire the runners at this level.
Brendan, as we were saying earlier, 11,000 people or so taking part in their first marathon, and I just wonder how many of them will come back for another year, because they must be going through a bit of mental anguish at this stage.
And in fact, I was just wondering while you were talking about the 11,000 new runners, I wonder how many of these people will be at home tonight, because it's census day today. Census taken every decade, so I wonder how many will get back into their own beds and how many will end up needing treatment. But in fact, there are well over 1,000 St John's ambulance workers, volunteers around the course to look after them. And considering the number of people who run, there are very, very few casualties indeed. Representatives of nearly 80 nations taking part in the fun run. And in the World Cup run itself, there were runners from well over 60 nations. The first time ever that a capital city marathon has incorporated a World Cup race. And so a reminder of the two winners in the World Cup races and the London Marathon. The women's race won by Rosa Mota, and the men by the Soviet athlete Viktor Tolstikov.